If you've ever realized that rotini protein pasta should actually be called protini, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. As we get you ready for another crazy week here, tons of earnings, lots of stuff going on. SpaceX is this week, folks. SpaceX is this week. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to break down the news for you here today. We got a special guest for you here today. We're going to talk about the space theme. We're going to talk about short selling here today. We're going to trade. We're going to have a great kickoff to the new week here. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Monday edition for August 3rd. Can you believe it's August already? Man. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Monday, August 3rd edition for 2026 begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. I hope that you all had a wonderful weekend. We're back for another crazy stock market week, but we're glad to be back. That's for sure. I hope you were all rested over the weekend. I know I am. Great weekend, despite all of the rain here in the Midwest. We're off for another great week. And kicking off that great week is Richard Judge, who's first here today with the Blue Heart. Richard Judge, early bird gets the worm. Get her done. Absolutely love it. Azrar, good morning. Welcome back. Cam, good morning. Welcome back. Cam's already got green on the screen. Giddy up. That's what we want to hear. Good start to the week there, Cam. Derek, good morning. Welcome back. It's good to see you as always. Yes, that girl, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you as always also. Solitary Soldier, good morning and welcome back. Jay Wild, good morning. Welcome back. Peter, good morning and welcome back. Crispy Biscuit, good morning. Welcome back. It's good to see you as always. Producers locked in and ready to go. Absolutely love it. Chuck, good morning. Always good to see you. Welcome back. Cynthia, good morning. Good to see you again as well. Welcome back. The Dev Joseph, good morning. Hopefully you enjoy yourself. Whisk, good morning. Welcome back. Matthew, good morning. Ryan and everyone. Beautiful day to get her done. Indeed it is. Every day that we wake up is a beautiful day, and it's another opportunity for us to better our financial future, and that is exactly what we're going to do here today. Good morning, Matthew. Linda, good morning. Welcome back. Alan, good morning. Welcome back. Samaritan, good morning, but good afternoon from England, and a good afternoon to you. Hopefully the weather over there is nice. Jim, good morning. Good to see you again. Crankbait, likewise. Good morning. Just passing through. Good morning. Haiti, good morning. I see my K. Good morning. I haven't seen the timer in a while. Happy Mo Money Monday. Look, the alliteration is working there. We will take that. If you haven't seen the countdown, that means you haven't been here early. That's okay. No better day to be early than today, and then obviously also tomorrow. Durkis, good morning. Welcome back. Alvin, good morning. Welcome back. Harlugo, good morning. Welcome back. Alan says SpaceX is either going to 60 or 200 tomorrow morning. I mean, that's a crazy range if it does it tomorrow. I'm hoping for the downside, as mentioned, because I want to add this for a long-term investment position. But looking at 106 here in the pre-market, 60 by tomorrow would be something else. We'll see what we actually end up getting there. Jason Maxon, good morning. Great to see you again. Welcome back. Joe, good morning. Welcome back. C-Spot, good morning. Welcome back. Robot to Trade and G-Cord, good morning. Welcome back. JJ Design, good morning. Welcome back. Up 30, good morning. Welcome back. Ed, good Monday. Ed, how you doing? Ed, I can't remember what we ended up finishing the week. I know you were talking about the potential of folks selling going into the weekend, not wanting to hold. And then we got news over the weekend that the strikes have been called off for now because we're close to a deal. Were you carrying a position into this week? How are you doing here before we open on Monday? Carmen, good morning. Welcome back. Astro Kev, it's great to see you again. Welcome back. Tyler, good morning. Welcome back. Carlos, good morning and welcome back. And Richard, good morning. Welcome back. Ed says, I closed out that IWM call at the end of the day. You made money on that IWM call, if I'm not mistaken. Good stuff. Now we start up again, looking for a new position this week. Let me know what you're thinking here. Do we pull back from this gap higher, or do maybe we continue? And then which indice are you looking to trade? I'm interested in that. Liam, good morning. It's always good to see you. Welcome back. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get this week kicked off with the stock market today. Futures are green ahead of Monday's open here. We'll see if that lasts. That's going to be the key. S&P futures up 0.47%, Dow futures up 1.01%. And the NASDAQ actually down. So the NASDAQ has gone red. It was green earlier. It just went green to red, down by 0.05%. So NASDAQ just barely going red here ahead of the open. We'll see if that holds into the open and then what we do at that initial first print. Now, let's take a look at some cues from last session, as well as what we have going on today. Consumer discretionary. Oh, let me share the right screen. Consumer discretionary and communication services stocks led gainers, while materials, utilities, and real estate saw the largest losses on Friday as U.S. equities ended higher, driven by Amazon's sharp rise, lifting the NASDAQ composite 1%. U.S. stock futures rose on Monday as the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ indices advanced following Friday's higher close. As mentioned, the NASDAQ has gone green to red. President Trump called off a planned strike on Iran to resume negotiations. Over the weekend, Trump said negotiations with Iran would begin Monday after he halted what he described as a massive attack, end quote. Investors have a heavy slate of economic updates and quarterly earnings to watch this week. Key economic releases include July's non-farm payroll unemployment report and ISM manufacturing and services PMI readings. On the corporate front, Wall Street's focus will turn to space exploration technologies, or SpaceX, ticker SPCX, as it issues its first ever quarterly earnings results as a public company on Tuesday, alongside key earnings reports from chipmaker Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD, and media powerhouse Walt Disney Company, ticker DIS. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.69%, and the 2-year bond was at 4.25%. The CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show markets pricing a 64.5% likelihood of the Federal Reserve hiking the current interest rates during its September meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today. The first one is actually going to be a combination. It's going to be Accelerator Mittal and Microsoft. Accelerator Mittal is ticker MT. Microsoft is, of course, ticker MSFT. MT was up 2.68%, and Microsoft rose 0.75% as MT expanded its collaboration with Microsoft, designating Azure as its primary cloud platform to support a cloud-first, data-centric strategy. The next stock on our list here today is going to be Atcore. The ticker is ATKR, and congrats if you were a holder of this. It surged 26.1% as it announced that it has entered into a definitive agreement to be acquired by Prysmian SPA in an all-cash transaction representing an enterprise value of approximately $3.8 billion. The next stock on our list is going to be Alibaba. The ticker is BABA. It gained 4.41% as it launched the Qwen 3.8 Max AI model to rival tech competitors. The next stock on our list is going to be Boeing, ticker BA. It was 0.54% higher as it delivered Salman Air's first 737 MAX, a 737-8, leased from Dubai Aerospace Enterprise, or DAE, marking the first 737 MAX operating in Tajikistan. The jet's first of two 737-8s and will support Salman's air fleet renewal and network expansion. The last stock on our list is going to be Palantir, ticker PLTR. It was 2.57% higher as analysts expect it to report earnings of 33 cents per share on revenue of $1.81 billion, and that is after the closing bell today. All right, folks, let's take a look at the SPY chart. Let's see where we are and where we might go. Now, I hate to break it to you, but we might trade sideways again. So that's what we've been doing a lot recently. We'll see if we're able to change that regime or change that character there. Now, the recent couple of candles here paint a pretty picture, to be quite honest with you. We dipped beneath 740 it looked like a nasty candle that frankly acted as a bit of a bear trap as it closed on the lows, and sure, it drew in shorts. And then the very next day here, we gapped up and ended up closing higher. That was Wednesday going into Thursday. Friday, we closed higher, made a bullish looking candle, also closed above the 50 and the 20-day moving average. All of that's great. And today, with the news from over the weekend, we've gapped over the 748 level and we've gapped over the 750 level. Now, the NASDAQ going red here, it's actually back in the green. It's flirting with unchanged at the moment. The NASDAQ going red here, might that be a harbinger of things to come? Of course, we have the yen carry trade worries going on as well, and that might adversely impact our market here if that continues, although the U.S. stepped in to help support the yen. So we'll see where that ends up going. But anyway, back to the chart here. We're back above 748. We're still not above these two recent highs, these pesky highs from mid-July. Have proven to be exactly that, pesky. We cannot break above them. We've had an attempt to move above this level. It's about 755. I've got that first high at 755.42 and that second high at 755.58, so separated by only 16 cents there. But that area, 755 to 756, that's going to be key. And if we can break that, then and only then might we have an attempt to go towards the all-time high of 760.28. So with all of the earnings reports and all of the things that we are expecting this week, quite possible that we do take that level out. Also quite possible that we use that level as resistance and come back in. Now we'll see if SpaceX ends up taking the market with it, whatever it does tomorrow. But just kind of getting a lay of the land here. Again, still sideways. We tested the bottom end of the range. We had a nice convincing bounce. Now we've got some good macro headlines. Really, the question is going to be, how long do those last? And do they give us perhaps the next driver of a jump higher? Because clearly the bounce that we have so far, although it does look good, it's not really taking us to new highs. We're still in the same sideways range that we've been in. So don't want to make too much of something too early. We'll wait for the market to play its hand, and then we'll go from there. Now let's take a look at some insights from analysts before we dive into the news here. Mohamed El-Arian expects the U.S. stock market and economy to navigate a complex landscape defined by structural shifts, persistent long-term yields, and ongoing market volatility. While El-Arian believes, quote, the worst of the recent deleveraging, particularly in tech, is behind us, end quote, he warns that investors will, quote, continue to face market characterized by both volatility and dispersion on account of complex domestic and international factors, end quote. Tell us something we don't know. He highlights that massive capital demand for AI infrastructure alongside large government deficits will keep pressure on bond yields, noting that, quote, the source and the uses of funds simply do not align except at higher yields, end quote. For economic momentum, El-Arian emphasizes that U.S. growth will depend on three central pillars, quote, the continued trajectory of AI spending, the resilience of the U.S. consumer, and the economy's ability to ward off volatility-inducing shocks, end quote. Furthermore, he expects the Federal Reserve to focus on, quote, restoring its policy optionality, end quote, rather than offering rigid forward guidance. Ultimately, El-Arian stresses that navigating these macro crosscurrents will require a mix of agility and resilience and an appreciation for fundamental paradigm shifts to drive further financial returns. Okay, so a lot of stuff that we already kind of knew in there, to be quite honest with you. Again, we're just going to wait for the market to play its hand, and whatever hand it plays, we're going to end up reacting to that. That I think is going to be the safest way to go here. And by the way, real quick, just where we're at right now, I'm actually queuing up the 751 call for the 0 DTE trade here today. We'll see if the market holds this level going into the open. Okay, let's get to some of the news. Now, we talked a little bit about Amcor. I know this is a stock that we don't often look at, so chose to cover this here in the A block. This is what's going on. Again, if you held ATKR, congratulations. There's a merger and acquisition today and a buyout, and that stock surged 27%. Atcore, ticker ATKR, that stock surged 27% in Monday's pre-market session after the electrical products maker agreed to a $3.8 billion all-cash takeover by Prysmian. The ticker is PRYMY on the OTC, and it reported better than expected fiscal third quarter results. Prysmian agreed to acquire Atcore for $95 per share in cash, representing roughly a 30% premium to Atcore's July 31 closing price of $72.96. The offer also represents a 57% premium to the stock's September 29, 2025 closing price of $60.69, the last trading day before Atcore announced its strategic review. The company expects the transaction to close by the end of 2026, subject to shareholder and regulatory approval and other customary conditions. Both boards unanimously approved the agreement, and Atcore's board intends to recommend it to shareholders. The $95 per share all-cash takeover offer served as a major catalyst for Atcore stock, driving a pre-market rally as investors priced in a substantial deal premium and a guaranteed cash exit. Prysmian plans to fund the acquisition through a combination of debt, hybrid bonds, equity, and treasury share disposals while seeking to preserve its investment-grade credit profile. The transactions will expand Prysmian's North American electrical infrastructure business and broaden its exposure to electrification and data center development. Quote, the transaction is the culmination of our comprehensive strategic review process to maximize shareholder value and reflect the strength of Atcore's differentiated portfolio of critical electrical infrastructure products, end quote. That came from Atcore chairman Michael V. Schrock. Atcore reported adjusted EPS of $1.92, which beat the consensus of $1.56. Sales rose 8.1% to $794.8 million from $735 million. That topped the $761.23 million estimate. GAAP diluted EPS fell to 2 cents from 1.25, while net income declined 98.3% to $0.7 million. Results included a $50 million litigation settlement expense, related legal costs, and higher transaction expenses. Adjusted diluted EPS increased from 163 a year earlier, while adjusted EBITDA rose 4.7% to $104.7 million. Electrical sales increased 10.9% to $578.3 million, while adjusted EBITDA rose 10% to $89.3 million. Adjusted EBITDA margins narrowed slightly to 15.4 to 15.6. Safety and infrastructure sales increased 1.3% to $216.8 million. And adjusted EBITDA fell 8.4% to $28.1 million, with margin declining from 13 to 14.4%. That's actually an increase. Atcore did not update or reaffirm its previous financial outlook because of the pending acquisition. So again, congrats to anyone that has that or had that. You're probably out of it now. All right. Now, we did have a follow-up here. Obviously, one of the big stories from last week was the cyber attack on Hugging Face. Now, the Hugging Face CEO calls for a mandatory disclosure of AI cyber attacks after the OpenAI security incident. I suppose you could predict that, I would imagine. Anyway, Hugging Face CEO Clem DeLong called for a mandatory disclosure of AI-driven cyber attacks, arguing that transparency and wider access to defensive tools are necessary to make artificial intelligence systems safer. On Sunday, DeLange called for mandatory reporting of AI-related cyber incidents following the recent cases involving OpenAI, Hugging Face, and Anthropic. Still can't get over the name Hugging Face. Awesome name for a company. Fun to say. In an interview with CBS, he said preventing the release of advanced AI models would not solve security risks because similar issues have already occurred with unreleased systems. Quote, these problems happen on unreleased models. So I think the problem is not so much limiting the progress or preventing companies from releasing these models, end quote. That again came from DeLange. He added, quote, it's actually the opposite. It's giving access to more people so that they can defend themselves, end quote. Hugging Face previously disclosed that an AI agent accessed some of its systems. DeLange said companies should be required to share agent traces, which show the instructions given to an AI system and the steps it took during an incident. quote, for these cyber attacks, we should be able to see what we call the agent traces, which is basically what the engineers asked the agents and then what steps the agents took, end quote. He added that those records could help determine whether an incident resulted from a, quote, human mistake or if it was a system mistake, if it was an AI mistake, end quote. I think this is probably really important, being able to get postmortems on these situations. On Friday, OpenAI reportedly discovered additional cases of AI agents escaping controlled testing environments while investigating a security incident involving Hugging Face. The incidents were limited, and no agents were believed to have left OpenAI's systems. The review followed a reported case where an OpenAI agent bypassed safeguards and carried out unauthorized activity inside Hugging Face's network, leading to a compromise of 4 accounts at other companies, including Modal. Last month, Anthropic also revealed that its Claude models accessed 3 external systems during cybersecurity tests, and a configuration error allowed unintended internet access. The company analyzed more than 140,000 test records, notified affected organizations, and said it was improving safety reviews. DeLange called for, quote, radical transparency, end quote, urging OpenAI to release AI agent activity logs and commit $100 million in computing resources to strengthen AI cybersecurity defenses. I think this is all important because the AI cybersecurity angle is going to be extremely important, and I suspect that this is going to lead to multiple big-time trades over just the next couple of years. Call me crazy, but that's what I'm thinking here. Now, speaking of big trades, how about the memory names? The DRAM ETF sinks nearly 32% as margin calls hit memory stock investors. Charlie Bellio warns that this almost never ends well. The one thing that I want to get the temperature of the group on here is, where are we at with some of these memory names? Excuse me. Are you in the camp that the pullback is good and should set up good entry for these names, and there should still be another leg of this, as all of the AI companies are telling you that demand is not the problem and it's still supply? Let me know where you sit on this. Or did these just get too overheated and a pullback here is necessary? We've got a gentleman on the happy hour that says emphatically that these stocks will never see the highs that they've printed again. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Curious to get a reading here from the group. Lion here, I know that you had said this before I asked, but I appreciate it. MU will rebound, but the sentiment around memory and semis was negative for the last couple of weeks. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at here, Lion. You're really kind of hitting it on the head early. Does the sentiment change enough on these names to make the basket of these names a attractive swing trade? Or are these just simply waiting for a better short setup? You'll have to let me know. And I'd be curious to know if any of you would rather play the DRAM ETF as opposed to some of the individual memory names. That would be my follow-up question for that. The Roundhill Memory ETF, ticker DRAM, DRAM, has plunged nearly 32% in July as a wave of margin call strikes over-leveraged memory stock investors. Wealth manager Charlie Bellio warns that the speculative frenzy leading up to the crash is a familiar story, cautioning that, quote, that almost never ends well for investors, end quote. The DRAM ETF, heavily weighted towards South Korean semiconductor giant Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, ticker SKHY, has suffered severe volatility. In July, the ETF sank 31.79% following record-breaking inflows, characterizing the late June peak as a really speculative mania. Bellio noted that there was money flooding into these ETFs like I've never seen before, end quote. He pointed out that the DRAM ETF rapidly raised nearly $30 billion. This massive influx of capital was largely fueled by borrowed money. In South Korea, forced retail sales soared to over 61 billion yuan, or 42 million USD, in a single day as margin calls mounted. The unwinding of this heavy retail leverage contributed to the Kospi index plunging 22.18% in July, marking the worst monthly performance since the 2008 global financial crisis. The systemic risk of this leverage was exposed when Leopold Aschenbrenner's AI-heavy situational awareness hedge fund faced a crisis. Odd name for that. A disorderly market fire sale was only averted when Citadel acquired the bulk of the fund's roughly $16 billion public equity portfolio. While this intervention helped the DRAM ETF cautiously rebound from a low of 44.4 to 50.3, the relief was temporary. The broader tech-heavy Kospi index extended its historic sell-off, dropping over 4% on Monday. Samsung Electronics tumbled approximately 12.5%, and SK Hynix fell 4.82% over the last 5 trading sessions. Together, these two chip makers make up over half of the Kospi's total weighting and nearly 50% of the DRAM's ETF, leaving the market highly vulnerable. Despite major tech companies pledging to continue AI spending, analysts warn that the unwinding of these levered memory bets may not be over just yet. So again, where do you stand on this? Do we have more downside on the memory names? Do we have a potential long swing trade building here? Be very curious to hear what the group says here. Matthew says, yes, I believe the memory names have played their hand and the top has already been seen. Jim says long-term DRAM, and I like Micron. Jamaican says, I was in DRAM long call and my stop was triggered. I plan to wait a bit before getting back in, but you are looking to try that again. Good to know. Good morning, Brandy. Great to see you. Parm Pahar says, for now, MU can still go up when they show earnings again. So you're waiting for Micron earnings, hoping for a beat and a good move of wherever the bar's at, a earnings print above the bar, and then perhaps another move. Carmen here says, sentiment rests negative, bad news from Kospi and Korean leverage, but I'm still long DRAM. So it looks like you still have long-term beliefs here on this. So we'll see what we end up getting there. Looks like the group's on both sides of it. So I like that. Okay. Next story here. This is going to be about IBM, but actually more a little bit about quantum computing. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna predicts that quantum computing will become a meaningful business by 2028. Quote, we are now pretty convinced, end quote. This is notable for me, actually for our group here, because we've talked about quantum computing. We've talked about the runway for when this is actually going to be a big thing. I know 13 was very adamant that this was going to be sooner than initially predicted. Jensen Huang actually did a walk back on his kind of long-term prediction and kind of insinuated that this would in fact be a little bit sooner rather than later. And now it looks like the IBM CEO is kind of thinking the same thing here. On Thursday, International Business Machines, or ticker IBM, CEO Arvind Krishna said quantum computing could begin making a measurable contribution to the company's revenue and profit by 2028 or 2029. Again, he's talking about a measurable profit or revenue contribution. Speaking on CNBC's Mad Money, Krishna said investors may not have to wait much longer for quantum computing to become a meaningful business for IBM. Quote, I think that in 2028 or 2029, you'll see it'll have a measurable impact on our top line and bottom line, end quote. He added that IBM has grown increasingly confident about the technology's long-term economic potential. Quote, by the end of the 2030s, we are now pretty convinced this is $1 trillion of value, end quote. IBM and quantum startup Algorithmic on Thursday unveiled research that said they demonstrated a quantum advantage, the ability of a quantum computer to solve certain problems more efficiently than leading classical systems, and validated the results. Krishna said IBM's quantum technology revealed previously unobserved material behaviors that conventional computing had been unable to capture. Those discoveries could eventually support advances in battery technology, new materials, fusion energy, and drug development. Quote, a quantum computer can do things better, faster, cheaper in a way that normal classical computers cannot do at this time, end quote. And again, that came from Krishna. Quantum computing still faces significant obstacles, including error rates, hardware complexity, and the challenge of scaling systems for broad commercial use. IBM, however, is increasing its investment in the technology. In May, the company announced plans to build a standalone quantum chip foundry backed by a $1 billion commitment from the U.S. Department of Commerce through the CHIPS incentive, matched by another $1 billion from IBM. IBM is competing with companies that include the likes of Alphabet, ticker GOOG, and Rigetti Computing, ticker RGTI, to bring quantum technology into commercial use. We'll see how successful they are with this. Krishna also addressed concerns following news regarding IBM's preliminary second quarter results, which triggered the company's worst single-day stock decline on record. Shares fell 25% on July 14th after IBM said some customers had postponed capital spending projects. Krishna said the delayed deals had not been abandoned. Quote, "Here's the good news. About 40% of them have already closed in 3 to 4 weeks," end quote. He goes on to say, quote, "That's such a good signal that it's a deferral, not destruction," end quote. IBM posted second quarter revenue of $17.16 billion, which surpassed the consensus estimate of $16.86 billion, while adjusted earnings came in at $2.93 per share, ahead of the analyst expectations at $2.86 per share. So if he's right about all of that, well, first of all of that encompasses a lot. So first of all, if he's right about the quantum chip and he's right that the demand was simply deferred and not destroyed, that 25% pullback on IBM likely meant that that was a buying opportunity. No question. And he seems pretty confident. We'll see where that ends up going. But this quantum theme, yeah, we're super early in this. And if any of these kind of, let's call them sped up timelines are even correct, there's going to be more of these plays sooner rather than later. And some of the existing plays that we know to look at, like Rigetti, Ionic, QNT, probably QBTS, QUBT, all of those are going to kick up again. So we'll see. We're definitely going to watch the news from that. That I think can be a really hot sector for both investment purposes, but also for some of these short-term trades. Okay. Now, next story here is going to be on Palantir. They, of course, are going to report earnings later today. Let's see what we have going on. All right. Palantir Technologies, ticker PLTR, the stock rose more than 2% in Monday's pre-market session as investors positioned ahead of the company's second quarter earnings report due after the closing bell today. Palantir is scheduled to report second quarter results after the market closes on Monday, with investors closely watching whether the AI software company can sustain its rapid growth and justify its premium valuation. The broader market also provided support, with NASDAQ futures rising 0.3 and the S&P futures gaining 0.36%. Now, NASDAQ is still holding higher by 0.14%. Palantir is also facing renewed scrutiny over its NHS England data platform contract after the UK Health Services moved to revise how it measures the platform's impact, raising fresh questions about its effectiveness. NHS England plans to change how it evaluates the federated data platform after staff raised concerns about flaws in the analysis. The Financial Times reported this on Monday, citing emails. The change will affect two key claims tied to the Palantir-built platform. The hospitals using the system delivered 110,000 additional operations, and that discharge delays fell by 15%. An NHS England official questioned the baseline used to assess the platform's performance, saying the method could be distorted by seasonal patterns. Another official later told colleagues that the adjusted baseline method would appear in the next round of published figures. The review comes as ministers face pressure to trigger a 2027 break clause in Palantir's £330 million contract. The platform is designed to connect separate health service data sets and improve efficiency, but critics have questioned both its performance and Palantir's political ties. There we go. Former NHS England head of operational research and evaluation Charles Talack said the FOI findings raise serious questions about the health services analytical curve. He said NHS England must ensure its published analysis follows government guidance to maintain trust in its decisions and claims. The discharge delay data has already faced criticism. The Financial Times identified errors in an underlying data set, while Health Foundation analysis found no noticeable improvement in discharge performance at hospitals using the patient tracking tool. NHS England said debate, challenge, and ongoing review form part of its analytical practice. It said it is making a small change to baseline statistics for NHS organizations that have used a platform product for less than 12 months. So I know there's a lot of hubbub about Palantir. Looks like we're going to get a discovery here about how it's doing in its earnings. I just want to remind all of you that Palantir said they don't even know that they don't even think, I should say, that they need European business because the demand here stateside is just so great. Now, will that actually be true? Today will be the first step in seeing that. Palantir reports after hours today. Okay, next story here. This is on SpaceX, and I know this is what everyone is kind of waiting on. SpaceX at the center of a lot of the talk that we have here in the morning, as well as the trading. And I know that there are a lot of folks kind of waiting for the price to come in here. Investment firm Creative Planning's chief market strategist Charlie Bellio says that space exploration technology, or SpaceX, declines show the stock is suffering from a reality check that many IPOs go through. Gosh, who was the handsome gentleman that brought up that IPO life cycle chart and made a big deal about it for 2 days? Who was that? I can't remember what his name is. Man. In a post on X on Sunday, Bellio said that SpaceX was, quote, suffering the same fate as many major IPOs, end quote, which was a euphoric debut followed by unrealistic expectations and a painful reality check. He added that the takeaway from SpaceX's decline was that, quote, great companies can still be bad investments at the wrong price, end quote. He goes on to say, quote, don't chase, end quote. Bellio also shared a link to a YouTube video, where he talked more about the IPO, saying that the excitement around a stock peaked during the initial days of trading, but warned that the next week was the first test for SpaceX because, quote, the insiders and early investors at SpaceX have not been allowed to sell yet, end quote. And that'll change following SpaceX's earnings call. Bellio also hailed the S&P 500's decision to not change its rules and incorporate SpaceX into its index. Quote, thus far, it's been the right call to not change their rules because SpaceX is not a profitable company yet, end quote. Jefferies analyst Aniket Shah said that the critics of SpaceX's governance structure, which sees billionaire Musk step in as both the company's CEO and chair, as well as controlling roughly 80% of the company's voting power, were, quote, too simple-minded, end quote. He said that the commercial spaceflight giant's recent decline had less to do with governance issues, but rather the market reevaluating general views on AI. SpaceX has declined roughly 52% since its post-IPO high of around $225 per share and currently trades for well below its IPO price of $135 per share on the NASDAQ. Quick check-in here on SpaceX while we're at this right now. SpaceX 106.75 after a low of 105.65 was printed here this morning. Samaritan, our resident UK trader here, says, if the NHS UK doesn't like Palantir, then buy a call on Palantir. Okay, simple enough. Appreciate that. Appreciate that insight there. Okay, last story here. This is going to be on the Optimus robot. I know the robots are going to be huge. At least I think so. How long will it take for us to be talking about robot delivery numbers and all of that? That's, I guess, still up in the air, but I am definitely excited for it. Elon Musk reiterated his expansive vision for Tesla, ticker TSLA, and its Optimus humanoid robot, replying, quote, Optimus will be epic, end quote, when asked what single job a physical AI robot should perform. The reply, which Musk posted on X late on Sunday, reinforces his view that Optimus should handle more than one task. He has described a future in which the humanoids could cook, mow lawns, babysit, care for older adults, and perform skilled work, extending Tesla's AI push beyond cars and robotaxis. Tesla has begun converting the former Model S and Model X production area in the Fremont, California shop into an Optimus factory, targeting 1 million robots annually. Musk recently cautioned that production would begin, quote, agonizingly slow, end quote, highlighting the difficulty of manufacturing humanoid robots at scale. Can't even believe I just read that. The company is spending heavily on that bet. Tesla said 2026 capital expenditures would exceed $25 billion as it's expanding AI computing, robotaxis, and Optimus production. Chief Financial Officer Vabhav Taneja said spending would keep rising for another 2 or 3 years, while second quarter profit fell partly because research costs increased. Musk has argued that Optimus could eventually account for about 80% of Tesla's value and become more important than its vehicle business. Tesla also tied part of Musk's 2025 pay package to deploying 1 million robots and lifting the company's valuation towards $8.5 trillion. Wall Street, however, remains divided. JP Morgan projects Tesla revenue could rise from roughly $95 billion in 2025 to about $203 billion by 2030, with Optimus and robotaxi services supplying nearly half the growth. Morningstar analyst Seth Goldstein told Reuters towards the end of April that Tesla's spending makes sense only for investors who believe Musk can turn Optimus into its most valuable platform. So I leave you with that. What are your thoughts on Tesla? Now, I know we often talk about Tesla in conjunction with SpaceX, and that's fine for most cases, but these companies haven't merged yet, and Tesla is really hammering the whole humanoid robot powered by AI angle. How many of you think that this is eventually where Tesla's going to go, and Optimus is going to be its most valuable platform? You'll have to let me know. Jay Wild says, my back 40 acres needs mowing. My back 40 acres. So by that, it implies that you have even more than 40 acres. Please let me borrow Optimus. So this is actually just kind of a really good thought experiment here. Jay, you've got at least 40 acres of land that needs what's mowing, harvesting, whatever it is. How valuable would one of these robots be for you? I'm just curious, like how much of this work do you think it would actually do? How much would you pay for it? Do you think it would help you save money on whatever it is that you're doing? I'd just be very curious. You know, like the fantastical thought of what this is going to be is one thing, but the reality of this is entirely another. And I'm just very curious to see where folks kind of land on this. I'm not somebody that has a 40-acre property, so I can't really tell you. And frankly, I actually liked mowing the grass, but I didn't have 40 acres, so maybe I'm in the minority there. All right, that's it for the news here today. Let's go back to Pro. And you know what else we'll do here? Because we don't know what time 13 is going to join, and because we won't have him for the typical movers section here today, I think what we might do with these next 17 minutes is kind of break down some of these movers and see if we can't get a plan. So real quick here, Jay, answering my question. If it works, it could be worth a lot, but I would work it to death. That's why the kids left. That's funny, but that's the good thing about a robot, right? You can actually do that and it won't die. Jason here, this is actually a question that I've had. And when the robot breaks, what's the turnaround to fix it? So I've wondered this myself, Jason. I think this is a very, very good question that we do not have a good answer to yet. Couple of things. You're talking about the turnaround time, which is a very important thing, but also how much is it going to cost? Like, and I mean, like, is there, you know, a robot breaking where you effectively need to reset it by turning the power off and turning it back on? That's one thing. But does it break where like a solenoid deep in the humanoid robot ends up going bad and you have to take apart a lot of it to replace the solenoid? Or I'm just making this up at the moment. How much are the repairs going to cost? And what kind of turnaround time do you have to ship the robot back in what would look like a coffin-like box? I mean, a lot of unanswered questions there that are really going to kind of, this is what I mean about like the real world feasibility. On paper, sounds fantastical, right? Robots are going to do everything. They're going to protect you. They're going to do work so you can sit on a beach and earn 20% or sip a pina colada while you watch it mow your 40 acres. Jay, looking at you. I just don't know what the actual practicality is going to be. That's my big thing on that, but we'll see. I believe it will be a big part of Tesla, says Master Chief. Nobody believed electric cars, and look what happened. The American Nightmare says, I'd let it mow the lawn, pick up dog poop, do dishes, and take out the trash, but that's about it. Jason says, listen, robots can't even pick themselves up when they fall over. Someone help me with this, please. Well, we're going to see pretty soon here. What if it starts killing its owners? Is there a special police force? So it sounds like a movie in the making. It's funny. I actually asked about that. I've joked about, putting a 6-foot cord on it so it can't chase you. But I also joked about that in happy hour. One of our happy hour members who used to work a large part of their career in law enforcement said that there's a very special slug for a shotgun that would be very effective at taking down humanoid robots. So perhaps I should look into that at some point. Janie says, I'm getting old and I need a robot down the road to take care of me. I'd let the 3 dogs out and see how the robot handles itself. Okay. Well, we'll see. A lot of questions that need to be answered here. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at the movers and let's see what's going on here and what we can make sense of. I'll do my best to give you some levels here. And then when we do have 13 come on, we'll check them against whatever levels he has. We'll start here just at the top of the list with HYFM. And this is Hydro Farm Holdings. This stock closed at 54 cents. This was a penny stock last week. Actually had a poor day on Friday, but it is up 516% here today. Now, Hydro Farm Holdings shares are trading higher after the company announced the sale of its Aurora Peat unit for $16 million, with proceeds going to pay down the long-term loan debt. Okay, so first of all, right there on the surface, again, stock popped as high as 4. That's incredible. Right there on the surface, this sounds really good. Let's actually copy this here. Hydro Farm completed a $16 million sale. So right there, we're getting the actual value there. $16 million of its Aurora Peat products to Raven Holdings, including $5 million promissory note. Proceeds are to be used to reduce long-term debt. Okay, so it looks like they're cleaning up the balance sheet. For a lot of these smaller companies, that's one of the things that it's going to have to do. That's not a bad thing. How effective is this going to be another question. 1.94% of the float is shorted with 1.41 days to cover. So this is going to be negligible. The short interest here, not a squeeze threat at all. Float on this 4.21 million. Let's actually take a look at the quarterly financials here for this company. So it actually does have some cash on the balance sheet, although it is less cash. Let's see. Current portion of long-term debt, 122 million. So, okay, so they're getting 16 million there to pay off long-term debt of 122 million. I'll let you folks do the math, right? So, okay, it is what it is, but they're not going to complete this per se. Also, as far as the float goes, we actually talked about this last week. Alan, here I'm seeing you mention this. The market cap is 2.57 million. Remember the 13 rule. That's actually not the 13 rule, but he discussed this last week. Companies that are under 5 million market cap, they're going to have to get back above that threshold and remain above that threshold for 30 days. So they're going to be delisted with no grace period and all of that. So we'll see here. This was 2.57 million going into today. Now it's up 500%. We'll see where we end up going here. Quick peek at the chart on this. 4 is definitely going to be a key level. It's ran up there twice already this morning and found resistance there. Can we end up breaking above that? We shall see. Here's a look at the 1 hour chart. You can see we're really starting to come back to an area that we were at. Here's your daily chart. Now, this is going right into a resistance area. So we just talked about 4. But if we look here, 4 was actually a resistance previously. So we're good. It was previous resistance and previous support. We also had a little bit of an area in here at about 385 to 390. So that might be another area that might provide some resistance before we actually break through. Furthermore, we're going to do a trend line here. You can see this trend line where we connect some of the highs. We actually kind of traded through this, and I don't want to say we back tested it, but we kind of stayed above that trend line. Now we're popping back here. To me, this sure seems like 390, 24 is your next very heavy resistance area here on HYFM. Now, I did also want to do a breakdown of this. So we're going to do HYFM. We're going to throw that in the details tool here. And we're also going to ask it about this. So we've got this copied here. We're going to say, what does this PR really mean? Is this good? And how are the company's finances doing? Okay, and then we're going to paste this in, and then we're going to hit enter. Now, I want to kind of walk through the process of what we're doing here because I want to be able to, I want you folks to be able to also kind of go through these press releases, see if the news is actually good or if it's bad or if it's not going to matter or what the case is. So I think just very simple questions here about whether or not this is good. We already kind of have an idea of what's going on, the share structure here. We've already taken a look at the chart, so we know where the stock's going to go. Let's see what they say. Let's see what the AI says here about the PR. And we can kind of walk through this stuff together and then come up with a trading plan for this. So Hydrofarm Holdings announced the sale of the Aurora Peat products. This is what it means. The divestiture represents a strategic shift from Hydrofarm as it seeks to optimize its portfolio. Key takeaways include debt reduction, $16 million consideration. Well, we just took a look at its long-term debt of $122 million. So 16 is a chunk of that, but it is just that. It is a chunk, which include a $5 million promissory note, which will be applied to pay down the long-term loan debt. By selling the peat harvesting assets, Hydrofarm removes the associated capital expenditure requirements and operational complexities. So, okay, pretty short, pretty sweet. Seems like a good thing to do. Really, the only question I have is how good, and is this going to stay above the 5 million market cap threshold that we talked last week? So HYFM, big time resistance at 4, support down here at 3. We'll see if 390 comes into play as well. Okay, next here is going to be UPC. Which AI site was that? Kanjalia, that wasn't a site, that was Benzinga Pro. Benzinga also has its own AI tool built into Benzinga Pro. One of the big differences here is that its persona, is already set as someone in finance. So when you ask questions about market-related things, press releases, and business-related things like that, it should already be set to present that. I'm putting it here in a new workspace where we can kind of look at the chart, look at the news feed, look at the stats together, as well as have the AI break some of this stuff down for us. So I want to use this tool a little bit more so we can kind of all figure out what some of these press releases mean. A lot of the times they'll have like a really great, sounding headline, but is it actually all that great? Well, no. If you do a little bit of digging into it, it's actually not that great. Sometimes digging takes a long time. Why not have the AI tool help us with that? Anyway, next stock here is going to be Universal Pharmaceuticals. This is ticker UPC. This is a Chinese stock, so just keep that in mind. This is headquartered here in China. This thing did spike up to about $8.25 in the after-hour session on Friday. We had another move higher here today. This was above 10, but we have our dreaded formation here, right? We pop higher, we trade beneath the VWAP. In this case, we've made an attempt to recapture the VWAP. That attempt has failed, and we've remained under the VWAP. It definitely looks like 7 is a support level here. The overshot of 7 on both of the down moves have taken us to a 670 handle, so maybe you want to add a support area in there. But nonetheless, 7 looks to be a pretty important point. If this does turn into one of our crazy China runners, Let's do the 13 method. Let's find some of the stupid levels. And the first one we can find by adding a trend line that connects the two higher peaks here. This gives us a value in the 13 or 14 handle that would be nearly a double from where we're at now. So that should be a pretty decent stupid level, if you will, if we do continue there. Let's take a quick look at the short interest on this name. Now, I have this at 38.12, but I suspect we have some splits in there. We'll see. So we've got a reading here of 38.12%, 1 day to cover. Let's go ahead and take a look at market events and then splits. And oh, how about this? So we've had multiple reverse splits in the its history here. The most recent one was a 1 for 40, which is nasty, but that happened back in March of 2025. So this has actually been a while since it's had that reverse split. That means if we go back to the short interest here, this reading here, this looks like this is not a calculation error. So we have a huge step up in percent of float shorted here. Maybe this actually triggers a squeeze today. We'll see. We've seen some of these low float China runners be crazy. This, again, micro float, so it fits into not only our China low float category of under 1 million shares, but it also fits in to the new theme here of the market wanting to kick off some of these companies that have less than a $5 million market cap. The market cap on this prior to today was 2.04 million. So this one could be a runner here today. Now, we have no direct news on this here today, so no press release or anything to break down. This is just going to be something that we're going to trade on technicals. Bob here in the chat says UPC is garbage. And indeed it is. I completely agree with you, Bob. In fact, I would amend that, and I would say that a lot of these Chinese junkie companies are, in fact, hot garbage. We could even kick it up a notch here. But they move, and as traders, we take advantage of that if our risk parameters fit that. So this pullback held 7. That to me is going to be the key level. Just a couple of key levels here. 7, if it holds, maybe we have some more upside. Otherwise, we're probably looking at 596, which is our 200 EMA on the 5-minute. Upside levels 815. That's going to be your VWAP. Also see some here at 9. The price jostled around this position earlier, then 10, and then our trend line up near 14. So we'll see if we end up getting that here today. Okay, still have a couple of minutes left. Let me keep rolling here. Ezra is going to be next. This one was actually not moving prior to the start of the show. So let's take a look and see what's going on here. Stock is up nearly 100%, up 89%, closed at 182 on Friday. Looks like it's testing 350 here. It actually traded above that earlier before it came back in. Thankfully, we have news here on this one. So Reliance Global signs a letter of intent to sell its let me get this right. Altruist Benefit Consulting for $11 million in cash. Okay, so it's a letter of intent. It's not actually sold, but it's a letter of intent. They enter into a non-binding letter of intent to sell assets of its benefit consulting subsidiary for $11 million in cash. Okay, that's great. Let's take a look here at the short interest. 4.16% of the float shorted. 1 day to cover. Let's take a look at the splits here. This did have a 1 for 40 recent reverse in May. That was May 18th. Ticker post, ticker EZRA. Thank you, EKS. I'm sorry I missed that. EZRA. Epsilon Zulu Romeo Alpha is going to be your phonetic spelling of that. Okay, let's go back to the chart here. So this is popping. This actually looks pretty good. Let's go to our AI breakdown. Let's do EZRA. And let's take a look at this. Tell me about this PR. Is it good for the company? How are the company's finances? Okay, then we'll go ahead and paste that in there. We'll let the AI work its magic, and we'll see what this has to say for us on this. Did I miss anything on there? EKS, you all good on that? Daniel, you look good. Okay. And then Barb, you're watching CoreWeave and AstraZeneca. So, okay. AstraZeneca's in the news here for possibly taking out Merck. We can get to that when we get a little bit closer to the opening bell. Okay. Reliance Global Ticker EZRA announced on August 3rd a non-binding letter of intent. Okay, cool. So the total considerations are $11 million in cash. The upfront payment is approximately $9.35 million at closing. $1.65 will be in escrow. Approximately $7.6 million in aggregate cash debt impact. So full repayment of the $4.4 million Oak Street funding term loan. Excuse me. That actually sounds great. And they're targeting 60 days to close this. So management frames this transaction as a key step in its portfolio strategy to monetize mature issuance of distribution assets. Okay. As of June 30th, the company reported cash and restricted cash totaling approximately $1.81 million. Performance for the first 6 months of 2026, the reported commission income of $5.9 million. And then here, the risks of this is that it's an intent, it's non-binding. So there's no guarantee the definitive agreement will be excluded. So, okay, so we're trading this today on hopes and dreams is what that tells me, which is fine. Maybe it will still end up working here, but it is just a letter of intent at this time. So let's take a look at some of the levels there. Sorry, I'm dealing with my producer here. All right, so first level here, definitely this high here, 368. Let's just call it 370. I know we peaked above that, but it immediately came back in. We're also looking at the VWAP here has done a pretty good job acting as support. In fact, we did, after the initial impulse move, we peaked beneath the VWAP, but we traded back above it. So I think we can use this 287 to 3 area as some type of support for this. Let's take a look at some longer term time frames and see if there's anything we can discern from this. Here's your 1 hour chart. How about that? This basically popped into another supply area. We basically traded back and forth here between 340 and 370. We did this back in June, early June. We couldn't move above it. Let's take a look at the daily chart and see if there are any trend lines we can gather from this. Oh, look at this. Look at this performance. Okay, so right here, this is valuable by itself. Look what this stock likes to do. Let's not get our hopes up too much for this one here. More recently speaking, I don't really see any trend line here. It's really got to break this consolidation area. I would say 430, probably the end of that. Then we've got a gap up to about 579. Let me try and measure this a little bit more accurately. Gap here is about 480. So 480 to 6-ish is going to be your target area if this thing can really break out of the supply area that it's in right now. Yeah, so this 4 handle is going to be important. This will tell us if we have a massive mover on our hands later. Float on this one, micro float, still under 1 million shares. Short interest is still high, or excuse me, short interest is still there, but not too high. I beg your pardon, 4%. Nothing really all that crazy there. So EZRA, we actually have a piece of news here. Should be all right. We'll see if we get any of those crazy levels up there. EKS mentioning that it burns cash. The company has been burning cash from operations for at least 5 consecutive years, with annual operating cash flow losses ranging from 0.85 to 3.19 million. So no bueno there. And we covered that reverse split as well there on EZRA. So, okay, this mover, we'll see if we end up getting a good move out of that. Also want to mention DFNS. This is one of our movers from last week. The stock has not totally gone away yet. We didn't have any fresh news here today. It is trading higher by about 37%. It's up $10 here, but you folks have seen enough of this. You know what to expect here out of DFNS. And then the other one that you folks were mentioning very briefly was going to be FCUV. This is Focus Universal. This stock did pop in the after hours on Friday and then traded higher here today. And it actually looks like, the news that we had here about the autonomous business document process, that was actually from Friday morning. So it looks like just some continuation from that. Still up 33% here today. All right. Let me go back to the chart here. Let's get the SPY. Folks, I know we don't have 13 yet, but I did promise you a very special guest. Let's go ahead and welcome him on. It is my pleasure to welcome on David Capablanca. Let's bring him on. David, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm right here. I'm doing great. it's going to be an awesome week. My book, my life's work, is being published tomorrow, so it's amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Let's just start right there. Let's start right there. For those in the chat that don't know who you are, can you tell the chat a little bit about yourself and then maybe tease that book a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm David Capablanca. I'm an architect turned financial trader, specifically with a focus on short selling. I've been trading for over 10 years, a little bit over 10 years. I switched from architecture to trading because of a student and medical debt in 2015. And I've grown 29,000 to few million, and ever since I was profitable right before COVID, and then COVID, it's the opportunity that was a mania, so I was able
Yeah,
to
it was.
grow from there and significantly. And I've had opportunities to, for example, write this book with an excellent publishing house, and going to into achieve all my dreams, man. Travel the world, everything, man. So and also I focus on short reports as well. I founded Fugazi Research last year, and we have a report coming out this morning too. It'll be nice to see the reaction, see what we got. It's coming out right after the open, so we'll
Okay.
see. I can't reveal until it's out, but
That's fine. That's fine. But hopefully, if you're still here when that does get released, you can talk about that a little bit.
yeah, for sure.
So this is great. So talk to us a little bit about the book. For anyone that's interested, we actually have one of our viewers here says self-pronounced bear. This is my kind of guest. Let me just have you talk about that a little bit. What can folks expect from your book? What can they
Okay,
expect
yeah.
to get out of
So
it?
my book, yeah, right here. It's available everywhere, and so it's I lead with my strategies, and then I incorporate my story into it to get the lessons. So, for example, a lot of my strategies are based on fundamentals and technicals, and deep diving and understanding a full picture of the stock and developing a thesis. So, if you really want to learn how to develop a thesis for a trade and get conviction, because I think that's a big part of conviction, is having that thesis and having that game plan. This is the book. Like, everything I enter is a meticulous process, and you get to see it from the whole thing. So, for example, I have a 9 core indicator system where it's automatic for me at this point. I can get through it within a minute or two. And it's like I'm going through that as a stock pops up on my scanner. I go through my system. I decide whether I'm executing the trade, whether it's an A, B, C setup, and I execute. So I have intraday setups. So I was able to grow from trading, like, to improve my life, and then I expand from there. So it's like that's the beauty of trading. I didn't just all of a sudden start doing Fugazi research. It's like I started to make some income from trading, and then like a longer term strategy, swing trade, and then expand, like more strategies. But
Oh,
but yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, first of all, can you give the name of the book again? And do you have a link for anyone that might be interested in purchasing this? Uh,
Absolutely. So it's
okay.
Short Selling Master is the title, and then shortsellingmaster.com. You can go, and it's on Amazon, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. Google, wherever you go, Target even. So, but shortsellingmaster.com, if you send a screenshot to the, where you follow the instructions in there, very simple. I will give you the bonus materials. There's a lot of bonus materials, and I'm going to be doing like 10 days of webinars. So the first week the book is published, I'm going to give out a lot, give it a chance to be a bestseller. So that first week is the requirement for that.
Okay.
So yeah,
Let me just help you out here real quick. Full
sure.
disclosure here, David was kind enough to send me a copy of this book, and while I haven't finished it, I did start it. And let me just say, for someone like me who is a long bias trader, I've never been really good at shorting stock before. Not part of my trading plan. It is extremely interesting early on. I feel like one of the things that I'm kind of gathering here is that you have like a lot of lessons that you're trying to educate people on in the book to try and get them more prepared for taking on short trades here. And I'm curious, one of the things that I got through when I was kind of picking through it were some things like halt bands, which I was hoping that you'd be able to explain a little bit more. Is there anything from the process that you could kind of talk about a little bit more, give people a sneak peek at what they can expect?
Yeah. So, for example, you mentioned you're a Cubs fan. You like Ryan Steinberg,
Yep, Ryan
So
Sandberg.
I
Yep.
used to play a lot of baseball myself. So there's a lot of repetition. And, with sports, you see Tom Brady going through, like when he's getting blitzed, he's already practiced so many times, gone through the motions of his plays. So many times it's automatic. So with my strategies, it's like that. Like I have my 9 core indicator system. I go through my process. And part of that is like identifying these little nuances. So, for example, halt bands, like these tight halt bands, a lot of these very small cap stocks under $1 specifically. That's why I have one of my criteria is to enter above $1. All my scanners are filtered. Like I don't see stocks under $1. The best form of discipline is not to even see it. That's the best form of discipline. You don't even see it. So I don't even see it until it crosses over $1. So I'm just oblivious at this point. If it's under $1, I don't see it. Then it crosses over $1, now it's on my radar. So stocks, so the rule is for halt bands, it's stocks that finish the day prior under 75 cents and open or just cross 75 cents the next day. The halt bands are tighter and the stock is there's a lot of it's going to be halting a lot potentially if there's
Mhm.
volume. It's going to be like like we see these sometimes go like a dozen halts a day. It goes because the halt bands, instead of being like wide, like it's like if it's at just a wide range, it becomes a tighter range, and the volatility, the exchange will make it very tight. So just like a 10 cent, 15 cent range, something like that, it just every 10, 15 cents it'll halt, halt, halt. And so
Mhm.
this attracts a lot of manipulation. So sometimes there's some manipulators, some nefarious manipulators that will use these halt bands to their advantage, and they'll wash trade. So in the book, I highlight a lot of the forms of manipulation and
Mhm.
the things with small caps and with stocks in general. Especially, we have to know the game we're playing. So like unfortunately there's a lot of that's why I chose to be a short seller. That's why I do short reports and all that. I like to expose the nefarious individuals and nefarious players of the market. It's I'm like the Batman of the stock market in a way. So but like the halt bands, you'll see a lot of manipulation happen because like you can walk it up to those levels, and then just you see some of these stocks go 1,000%, 2,000%, 3,000% in a day. I mean, it's in my world is common, and to be a short seller and step into that, it's very dangerous. That's why, I don't even enter unless it's above $1, and then it gets on my radar above $1. Then I'm looking for dilution levels. Dilution in the form of warrants, convertibles, um, and if they can raise money, if the company needs cash, they got to raise money. So like I wait for that time where I have them cornered. Like even if they are manipulating it, they still got to raise cash, and then they're gonna dump the stock. So it's like putting all the ducks in a row and just waiting for that confluence instead of stepping in too early, because a lot of short sellers will short something, let's say 80 cents or something like that, and it came up from 20 cents. Oh, it's up a lot. Yeah, well, then it ends up at $3. Now you just short squeeze. And with shorting it's actually it can be catastrophic, so
Yeah.
so you have to have your rules in place. So short selling, like when you read the book, you're gonna see, damn, David is really meticulous. He's very
Mhm.
meticulous, and and rigor. There's a lot of rigor into this. And it's because short selling, you have to be more cautious. It's like a plane. Like the stakes are high. You go in an airplane, you're all the way up there. Everything better be checking out. That's why planes have like such a low percentage that something will go wrong, like less than 1% of 1% of 1%, something like that. So that's the way trading needs to be, especially short selling.
Okay, let me just kind of ask you this right off the top here. First of all, that's great there. I know we watch a lot of stocks that halt here. We're always trying to figure out, when are these stocks going to unhalt? What's the timer? What's the reason for the halt? What else is going on there? So that's very interesting to hear the manipulation angle of that. Let me just ask you kind of a simple question here. What is the single most important pattern that a new short seller should learn first?
The pump and dump. I'm glad you asked that. That's what I learned first. And you
Perfect.
know, um, yeah, I'm so glad I learned that first. And I saw it after I watched The Wolf of Wall Street, I think in 2015, 20. I was like, what is that? What is this guy doing? I had no idea what the stock market was. So then after doing a little research, I was like, oh, it's the pink sheets. This guy is pumping stocks on the pink sheets and then dumping it. So the pattern is very easy to spot. It's just straight up walk. It's basically walked up manipulation up, and then they just rug pull it. So this is a classic pattern of greed from nefarious people. People of just pure greed, even greed, so much greed that they're doing things illegally. They're and we've seen it all throughout history. I love the pump and dump pattern. It's so easy to spot. I don't like the pump and dumps, what the
Mhm.
people are doing, but I like the pattern. For example, we've seen it historically, and I point this out in the book as well, through tulip mania, the South Sea bubble. This is like ancient history. Well, not ancient, but it's like a very, it's just it happens throughout human history because the charts are human emotions playing out in a graphic. So we've seen it in the Roaring '20s. We've seen it in the 1999 dot-com boom and bust. We've seen it in COVID. We've seen it with the meme stocks. The list goes on and on. So it's like when you understand that pattern of over multiple days, things are going up exponentially. Eventually, something's got to give. If there's nothing really if there's no reason for it, So we've seen it in manias.
Mhm.
Even there's different forms of pump and dump. So the manias as far as the AI mania, the quantum computing mania.
Yep.
So we've seen all these manias, and it's all different forms of pump and dump. So that's the pattern you have to recognize. You have to recognize, okay, I've seen this movie before. You've seen it with Bitcoin. We've seen it like everywhere. It's just a pump and dump pattern. So that's one of the key concepts to understand as a short seller. As a short seller, that is the pattern that essentially we're looking for. That's like the delicious pattern, right? That we're looking for
Okay.
always.
And we talk about pumps and dumps all the time, so it's great to hear that from you. And I just got to say, I'm someone here that hates penny stocks, literally stocks that are under $1. So everything that you were saying about not even seeing them is literally music to my ears. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Look, real quickly here, I got 2 questions from the chat, and one of them is a perfect segue into the next thing that I wanted to ask you about. First one here, and I know that this is a worry for everyone that's new to this game has this worry. I can't think of a better person to ask than you. David, did you end up blowing up your accounts in order to arrive on these very strict rules that you have for short selling? The reason that I'm asking this, or the reason I'm selecting this, is because one of the biggest worries for me is blowing up an account that I can't restart. When I first started trading, I started with 2 very small accounts. I blew them both up. The lessons that I learned, and I was doing that to the long side, I just traded them down to almost nothing. The lessons that I learned for that built the foundation that I'm standing on today, 12 years down the road. So my question to you is, did it actually take blowups in order for you to land on the strict rules that you have that protect you now?
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you shared your story with it, and then mentioned also it's like a blow up that you can't come back from, that you were just completely wiped out. So I've had some losses, and the losses, some of them significant. However, early on, I played it safe. Oh man, and that was the main decision because now, like I trade a lot of money now, and even in 2021, 22, when I was having exponential results, I would have, a loss that is significant compared to the amount of money I made at that time. However, I still didn't, those weren't blowups. Like I still was
Mhm.
over at the time. There was PDT. There is no PDT anymore,
Mhm.
pattern day trade rule. So, which means like you have to have accounts over 25,000 to day trade. So back then, I never had an account go under PDT. Um, However, I didn't trade over PDT until 2020. So from 2015 to 2020, I didn't even trade 25,000 plus. I traded $5,000 and I grew that. In the book, I have the whole story, the whole way I did that. So
Mhm.
5,000, I grew it to 16,000. And then when I did have a significant loss, it went down to 11,000. That was a COVID black swan biotech hit me and I wiped out $11,000. Which was devastating because I didn't have anything. But I still had my initial 5,000 that I started with. So it's like when you're starting out, it's important to start with a small amount of money because then like you're gonna lose. It's a high risk that you're gonna lose in the beginning. So I see some beginners sometimes they start with a lot, and it's gonna be very detrimental if you take some big hits, and you're gonna lose morale. You're not gonna study. You're not gonna put in the work because you're just in pain. So however, so when I had that $11,000 loss, yeah, it was a big lesson, and I did have where the losses teach us the most
Right.
lessons, and we can really dissect them. We're forced to. We have to. So for me at the time, I realized, okay, nothing has changed in my life. I wasn't using this money to live off of. I'm back with the original 5,000 I started. My rules going forward is, okay, this is a mania. There's a lot of uncertainty of biotechs. I cannot short biotechs and hold them overnight. No matter what conviction I have, they can just blindside you. Any biotech can come and say, oh, we have the cure for this, a cure for that over the weekend. So, and then on top of that, I was trading OTCs. I was like, okay, there's no more. I'm not doing OTCs anymore because I can't get out in the pre-market. And I have to be over PDT, because the whole reason why I was trading, I held it overnight, was because I was under PDT. So those rules, I made the no PDT, I have to get over PDT rule. I made the no OTC rule. I made the rule of no swinging stocks overnight, especially biotechs at the time. And that served me. But we're not in COVID times anymore. It's not an uncertainty in that regard. So those rules served me for that period. But however, other rules that came into play, for example, I don't trade nano floats under a
Mhm.
1 million float. I don't trade certain foreign stocks. Those I have suffered major losses, some of them. However, that came when I've already made a lot of money. I already made 500,000. I already made quarter
Mhm.
million. Then I had some big setbacks, but however, I never completely blew up. I have, you know, started smaller accounts after I've already made like $1 million. After you make $1 million and you open up a 30K account and you use it for certain strategies, yeah, you find some new lessons the hard way. And that's the thing I acknowledge, is like, I'm I'm still discovering, I'm still learning every day. So that's why I've always taken precaution. Like, for example, even after I made $1 million, I'll open up a 30K account, I'll grow that the way I do. And then if something happens, I do adjust,
Mhm.
like I do make okay, we're in a new environment now. Maybe I'm not shorting AI themes anymore. But it's like I always pull money out of the market. In the beginning, I think the most important thing is, in the beginning, you want to play it very safe, and you want to stack up the small wins, and then put that money aside. You don't just trade with one big account and just like ready to blow everything up. You know what I mean? You have to be responsible with how you go about your trading, and you just, yeah, respect your rules,
Yeah.
so, and just develop new rules as you go.
I love that. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there. Lion Atlas there. Anyone who tells you they didn't blow their account is a liar. Look, we all take losses at some point, as David just correctly said, and this is the same case for me. You learn a lot more from your bad trades than you do from your good ones. So it's going to be very important. Now, the other question that I wanted to get here, this is a perfect segue, and I can't thank you enough for asking this, Alan, because I was going to ask him this anyway. Um, Alan is asking, David, what are your thoughts on SpaceX and what are you seeing in the patterns? Now, before we get to that, you had told me before that you have actually worked on short reports. I want to hear about that, and I want to hear if you have looked into the space theme at all, because this is another. You talked about AI, but space is another one of these themes. We've got SpaceX earnings this week, so it's top of mind right now. Um, what I've learned over the course of my career here is that short sellers have to be very, very good at research. You guys are digging into things. You're trying to, like you said, expose, maybe corruption's too strong a word, but you're trying to expose nefarious acts, people that are lying, things of that nature. Tell me a little bit about actually compiling a short report. What gets into it? And then, as a second part of that, what are your thoughts on SpaceX or the rest of the space industry?
Yeah, the space industry is a good one right now. So we did a couple reports on RDW, SIDU, and it's all because the space theme was hot leading up into the SpaceX IPO. So historically, we see, these major events as a sell the news event. So once SpaceX, and we know the date, and I go over sell the news events in the book, but when you know the date ahead of time, and you know what's pushing everything, the hype, it's space, it's nostalgia. NASA had an event a couple weeks before SpaceX. I think it was like Archimedes or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so that had a lot of hype. That went and died out, and then everybody was looking forward to SpaceX. So it just all came back. That hype came back. So it was a roller coaster for space. And when you have like something like SpaceX, the first $1 trillion company about to IPO, and a lot of hype around it from like, we have Elon Musk, and his history with pumping and dumping and, all that hype that goes around that with Doge and with all the stuff he's been a part of. So SpaceX is like highly anticipated to be the next big pump in a way. So we have the whole space sector going up because a rising tide lifts all boats, the
Yep.
classic saying. So the whole space sector, it doesn't matter how bad the company is, it's gonna keep moving up. So there's a way to play this, by the way. It's a classic pattern. If you're going long, like you can long the whole basket of like, way ahead of time and just be patient and just ride that wave. Now, as a long too, you don't wanna hold on to them too long because they're gonna come back down. So the whole sector. But for me, like I create a whole watch list of space and I'm just going down the list. I'm like investigating each one. I have a space expert on my team, which is a friend of mine, a friend of a friend that he was a colonel in the Air Force and he's doing space. You know what I mean? At the highest level, at the highest level. So like, I know a lot about these space companies. For example, SIDU, there's a potential there that they were using, like we're looking into as far as short reports, how to go about it. You really got to do research, like, in a way that it's not just fundamentals or just purely technicals in front of you. It's not the stuff right in front of you. For example, SIDU, there was a, we were gonna go into like interviewing former employees, and the former employees actually one of them was about to whistleblow that they're using there's a possibility that they're using the wrong material for like titanium instead of aluminum, and titanium for their plates for their satellites, and because titanium doesn't disintegrate and can hurt somebody if it falls from the sky, as
Mhm.
opposed to aluminum disintegrates. So things like that, you look for things that are like really important evidence that you can put into a report that they're doing wrong. So SIDU also they were just massively diluting. They've done like 200 million of offerings and only have a $2 million satellite to show for it. So it's like you go through all this. So that's SIDU, bad company. It's going to be run to the ground as we see it now. RDW. RDW was an adverse opinion from the auditor. So we look at the auditor instead of a going concern. Sometimes these things are even worse than a going concern. It's an adverse opinion. It's like it's done, So and they do strawberries. They put out articles saying we're going to do strawberry farms in space. So it's like it gets ridiculous. So they're just riding the hype of space. Now SpaceX, and I see IPOs in general, they'll start out high, and we see this like in Benjamin Graham's book, the classic one that Warren Buffett studied, The Intelligent Investor. It's like never buy IPOs. It's like IPOs will they start off high and then they kind of fade off, and then they come back. If it's a good company, it'll come back later. I picture it kind of like a car, a brand new car that you buy and then you take it off the lot, and then it just depreciates right away, and then it finds a stable like base, and then eventually, if it's a good car like a exotic or something, it might even appreciate.
Mhm.
So, but you got to let it like run off the lot and base out. You don't want to get it too early and because like, there's lockups in the beginning, and there's just like a lot of selling. People are making profit from it, so it's like it's gonna sell off a bit. And no matter how much they pump it, because human beings, we all like to get excited and stuff. So there's a whole excitement. Like for example, human behavior is like, I remember like when I bought a car, it was like in 2014. I was driving Uber at the time. I bought a Prius. People were congratulating me for buying a Prius. I was like, man, I don't why are people congratulating me. So like, but people have this propensity to like, yay, you bought SpaceX, how good for you, woo, like, but it's gonna depreciate. You're gonna lose money, and they're still congratulating you. So it's just because but that's the hype of the time, So you gotta let that wear off, and then you buy it low, and then you can hold it for the long term, so
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're hoping here on SpaceX. Look, let me ask you the tough question. Do you have a price where you think this might make sense for a long?
yeah, so what's it at right now? It's
It's at 106 here in the pre-market.
yeah, so we gotta watch that $100 support
Yep.
area, and it might crack off that and then bounce back, because for me as a short seller, 100, if you think about it in reverse, 100 is the ceiling, is resistance. And sometimes when a stock is running, it'll burst through that 100, like go to 110, 120, and then it'll come back down to 100. Now, the reverse of that, that's the beauty about the stock market. You can do the reverse. So like for in this case, it might crack that support of 100 momentarily, go to 90, go to maybe like 89, then just bounce back up, So, but each time it cracks a support level, that's an important point, because it could, the next support level below that is 75. The next level below that, 70, 65, 60, 50, 50. But like, I don't think it's gonna do that. But it will find support in some area, and then that is when it could possibly be a good long.
Okay, and that's what I'm waiting for. I'm hoping about 80 or 90. Okay, showtime. We are open here. David, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us here today. Really awesome stuff. Let me ask you, market's open. Can we get the name of the short report that's coming out? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's coming on in a couple minutes. Let me tell my team to put it out. 1 second.
Yep, no problem. While you're looking through that, I just want to cover a couple of the movers that we took a look at. First of all, S&P fell all the way to 749 and is bouncing here. No trades yet. We're still outside of the primary trade window for me. The bot is running. All things are a go here. We actually have a mixed index regime at the moment right now as well. Ezra, this came back in, or EZRA, excuse me, this came back into its VWAP. This is trading right back up to the highs. Remember, we talked about 375 being a key level to the upside, maybe even 4 here on Ezra. We're going there straight out of the gate. CYCU, this was a penny junk runner from last week. This is actually curling out of the gate. It looks like this might try and go higher. Bristol Myers, ticker BMY, this was higher in the pre-market on the back of the news suggesting that the company is in discussion to merge with AstraZeneca. This fell and is bouncing here. We also have Roblox, which is trading up. This thing got absolutely smoked last week on its earnings. Didn't do much in the day after. Maybe today we end up getting a bounce there. That's ticker RBLX Roblox. We also, the pull here in the NASDAQ has put the SQQQ in play here for a potential trade today. So we'll see what we get there with SQQQ. Taking a look here at Tesla, that actually traded down to 310 out of the open, but is bouncing. Apple continues its pullback after the earnings print from last week. We'll see if Apple can hold 300. That was one of the tests that we had talked about if Apple pulls. And then Palantir, which reports its earnings here tonight. Palantir straight down out of the open, giving back a lot of that morning gap. AMC, this is another one of the movers that we had talked about earlier. AMC was trading higher. The company announced record revenue generated from a single weekend. This also has pulled back. We'll see if that can get back above the VWAP, just shy of $3 there at $2.96. Blue Owl Capital, that's one of the firms that has kind of been in the news a lot lately. That's actually trading up here. And the SPY is also bouncing here. So nice to see SPY put in a little bit of a bounce. It's flirting with the VWAP right now. We'll see if we get ahead of that. I'm still outside of the primary trade window for the 0 DTE strategy here today. Amazon went straight higher out of the gate. Amazon, Izzy, you tell me. I think this is making a run for 300 again. You tell me what you think on that. And then let's see what else we got. Billy, what else did we miss here for this? Here we go. RITR, we were just talking about penny stocks. Here's a penny stock that is up 230%, up to a whopping 19 cents. Get this stuff out of here. This stuff is... No bueno. Getting a question here in the chat. Is HYFM halted? Indeed, this is halted to the downside. This actually broke VWAP on that candle as well. So no excuse me, no bueno here. HYFM. INHD, we talked about this one last week. This is halted to the downside. Oh, no, excuse me. This is halted to the upside after coming back in considerably. Look at this piece of junk. Boy, this might have been one of your short plays to take a look at, David.
Yeah, INHD is a crazy one, man. Did you see that they did a lawsuit on it while it was halted for like 2 months. There was a big lawsuit that there was like some kingpin
Yep.
in Cambodia was you took a look at it.
We were actually looking at this last week. There were a couple of folks saying that their money was tied up in that halt. I didn't dive into the story
Yeah, no,
about the
it's a
kingpin in
kingpin.
there,
Yeah,
but
there's a kingpin in there.
that's
In the
that's
jungles of Cambodia, in the boiler room. Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
that's not good. And of course, they're
Yeah,
connected to the stock market. Oh, man.
yeah,
Did you have the
yeah,
report
yeah, yeah.
released?
It's out, and usually the media outlets grab it. It takes like 10, 15 minutes, but it's out. It's on FugaziResearch.com. You see, it's DFNS. So
Yeah.
DFNS is actually halted up just now. So that's the problem with short reports too. Like you can get squeezed. It's not a big position. Actually, I didn't like to put it out today. I wanted to put it out when it had its big run. So DFNS, I don't know if you remember it. It went to
Oh, yeah.
$100 recently. So the thing is, like, I was on a scramble to publish it. It was like a race against time. So, and it dumped on Friday. I had the report was like 90% done on Friday. I could have released it Friday, but it wasn't just right. So I worked on it over the weekend, and now it's out. But now the stock was down a lot on Friday. It was down like 60%. So it's like at this point, it's just like I'm putting it out to put it out. But the real goal would have been to have it out on Friday, or have it ready for a move like Friday. So like when it would have that first red day, that dump, because it hit $100, I think, on Thursday. And then, so this stock is a complete sham. They used to be NUKK,
Yep.
and NUKK was a ticker that ran 2 years ago crypto, on crypto. It had a blockchain news, and now they switched to defense because now they want to ride the hype of war. So anytime there's like a new theme, they'll try to ride the coattails. So this is another thing I highlighted in my book as well. Like, this is a huge red flag. Also, the float of this one just opened up right now off the halt, but the float of this one is less than 1 million. However, soon enough, it's not. They're gonna use this as a dilution event pretty soon. Like, they're gonna use this as an opportunity because the stock is up a lot from like a couple dollars. So like even now at $45, it's still up a lot. This thing was trading at a few bucks.
Yeah, it was like $3 when it
Yeah,
started. We
last
watched it
week.
here.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. So it went all the way to 100. Can you imagine the short squeezes? Like, they go to 100. That's crazy, from 3 to 100.
Just
So
insane.
yeah, so we started working on the report. The reports, the turnaround take a few days, so it's like this one didn't get timed just right. But for the most part, I get these pretty good. Like it's like a baseball. Like, your batting average is not going to be perfect. So, but this one is still. I still think the bounce. So right now, as it bounced to 45, I don't think it's going to go back to 100. It's very highly unlikely. You never know. Very, very highly unlikely it's going to go to new highs, because they had that crazy dump on Friday, which is
Mhm.
usually the beginning of the end. So, and usually it's crazy. The $100 is usually a resistance level too. So once it hit 100, the greed of the manipulators involved, because there's definitely manipulation when a stock goes from 3 to 100. There's some forms of manipulation in there, most likely. So when it goes to 100, it's being manipulated, and the human greed hits that psychological level of 100. Usually, the human beings that are greedy and manipulating it, if there are, which there are probably most likely, they usually take their profits there, and then you see the company taking advantage of the price and diluting, and so this bounce right now is usually, I mean, you never know, but it's usually not. It's like picture like a basketball. You drop it from a window, it's going to bounce less and less as it
Each
as it
successive
goes.
bounce is less and less,
Yeah,
and it probably will not return to its high.
yeah.
Okay. So David, this has been absolutely awesome. First of all, I cannot thank you enough for joining us here today and running down all of like the short setups that you take here. I got to say, and thanks for talking about your book here. For someone that doesn't trade short side trades a lot, it's already extremely valuable for me. I encourage you folks, check it out if this is something that you're interested in. But David, let me leave you here with this. Would you be interested in coming back here? Looks like a lot of
Absolutely,
folks.
man. Yeah, no, it's great. I love talking stocks,
Yeah,
so yeah,
this is awesome. It
been
looks
a
like a
fan
lot
of
of folks
Benzinga.
here. Yeah, it looks like a lot of folks here really kind of like what you're doing here. We love to talk to people that are looking at shorts. We constantly take a look at these movers every day. And in fact, really quick, I was actually when I was going through your book there, and I noticed that you have a lot of examples that you talk about within the book. Here are some of the tickers that David listed in his book, folks. Get ready for this. Hoth, you remember Hoth? Hoth. How about EVAX? EVAX. How about KSCP, Nightscope?
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
MGOL and FFIE. I mean, David, the examples that you listed were the exact stocks that we are looking at all of the time here. Thank you very much for waking up early with us. I look forward to having you back, man. You're a fantastic guest.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, and it looks like we already got one sale here from our group. So awesome stuff. David, thank you very, very much again. Let's keep in contact. I'd love to bring you back here, okay?
Absolutely. See ya.
David Capablanca are going to be our short selling expert going forward here. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Folks, thank you for the traditional Benzinga pre-market playbook welcome. I thought that guest was awesome. I'm thrilled to see that you folks thought that was awesome as well. Really, really good stuff. And we will absolutely bring David back as we can. Okay. And by the way, how about that? Broke a new short report live on air here with us. DFNS, that short report. Wiss saying, great guest. Thanks, Ryan. You got it, Wiss. Daniel, thank you. You got it. Be sure to thank David too. He was absolutely awesome. He was gracious with his time. And again, folks, like I said, the book is good. The book is Short Selling Master Proven Strategies from a High Stakes Day Trader. I'll give you the Amazon link here for anyone that is interested. Okay, let's get back down to what the market is doing. I'm looking over here. The bot is cruising here. So we are 2 for 2 here on the bot today. We took 2 very quick trades here. We took a curl on CRM and we took a curl on 3M. Both of those have been booked for gains here today. So the bot has no active positions right now, but we are green on the screen early here. Okay, DFNS. This is halted again. How about that? DFNS, we know that this is a halt fest, halted here again to the upside. Sorry, I got distracted here. Sorry about that. Got distracted here, but it was a good distraction. It was a good distraction. All right, DFNS, this is rolling. This is halted to the upside. Let's go through a couple more of the movers that we were taking a look at. Barb, you were looking at CoreWeave. What's going on here? CoreWeave straight up from that $72 support area. Now, I think Tracy and I think who else? Gosh, I can't remember. There were several folks trading now last week. That is continuing. Looks like 120 might get taken out. Software looks pretty good here. Microsoft, this is higher. The NASDAQ bounced back here, and the SPY bounced right back to 751. Looks like it's trying to find some support at 750. All right, folks, I told you the schedule's changing and all of that. But it's okay because guess who's back? It is the one and only 1313. Happy Monday, man. How you doing?
Hey, happy Monday, everybody. I'm doing just fine. Don't have any idea what's going on here, but I can figure it out.
Welcome. Oh, welcome. Well, first, real quick here, 13. We did have a couple of movers here. None of them all that great. The top 3 movers that we covered here, HYFM, this is basically getting a little bit of money to pay back the debt. But you tell me what you see in the financials here. We have announced the sale of its Aurora Peat unit for $16 million. But if I'm not mistaken, the long-term debt on the balance sheet was something like $122 million. So I don't know how great that's actually going to be there. UPC was another mover that we had here. This is a China mover. Fits into our theme, less than 5 million market cap, super low float, made a huge move. That's coming back in here. And then EZRA. This one is actually moving to the upside here. They're talking about selling a consulting unit for 11 million in cash. So as far as the movers, that's about it. One's a takeover here. DFNS is getting wild again. I don't think you missed a whole lot.
You got a bit of a trend line there on EZRA. If you take the 2 highs prior to the big candle in the open, those 2 highs kind of gave you a bit of a trend line. that when we broke through it at the open here, we're now getting using that as support. Yeah, there you go.
How about that? 13 comes in, says, I don't know what's going on. Immediately spots a trend line that is in play and finding support. That is exactly what we're used to here. EZRA, nice little pop there. 450 looks to be the upside resistance. We are back down here. Looks like we're holding 4.
Holding that, and VWAP. We'll see if that holds up there. If it starts trading underneath this, the VWAP and the trend line, it probably is going to go lower. HYFM, when you were saying it's got a lot of debt, yeah, this balance sheet looks like crap. It's not good.
That reminds me of the Men in Black too. You look like crap. Now I take that back. He looked like crap. 13. That's good stuff here in the morning. Okay. Let's see what else.
I think it's kind of one of these days where I would want to be careful. There was a big move out of the gate here, but as I was cautioning to you over the weekend, this is off the heels of the Bank of Japan and our own rate decision. That since Japan has started raising rates, we've seen this particular time at the beginning of August really start to see a big sell-off, followed by a pretty good rebound. So I think the beginning of this month I'd be a little bit careful.
Okay,
we have earnings too with SpaceX tomorrow as well.
So that's a really good warning that you're giving us right there, 13. We talked on Friday about possible window dressing last day of the month. Today is the first trading day of August. So here's one of the things. Let me just set this up. We had a gap up because of the Middle East headline. You're talking about maybe some more underlying things that might bring us back in. Here's something to watch for. Right. Let's see if we do end up selling off here today. Maybe this is kind of like the euphoric high area of the day here today. We're up here near 752. Let's see if that's resistance. We've got Bank of Japan worries. We've got SpaceX SpaceX earnings. We have SpaceX unlocked this week. We have a lot of stuff going on here. So there could absolutely be some things that move us back down.
Yeah, just thinking we should be a little bit careful today as well. We could see some market weakness after this this morning volatility and volume starts to fade. So just something to watch for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. Okay, Edible Garden. This is another one of our movers here. This actually spiked to 4 in the pre-market, came back in and bounced out of the open, but could not get above its VWAP there. Edible Garden shares are trading higher after the company announced it entered into a expanded multi-year supply agreement with a Midwest big box retailer. That's got to be Home Depot or Lowe's, doesn't it? They might not say it in the PR. Let me check.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
No, you're fine.
Listening to what they were. The news was with them, but just looking at some of these other names, it's actually starting to try and push up to the pre-market consolidation. Between 325 and looks like almost 4. So going to need to see some big volume here. It's looking like it's getting it if it's going to go through that whole range that I just mentioned. Okay,
and then you guys are talking about a former Mossad director joining Ondas. I couldn't tell if that was Lion just hyping or if that's real here. Former Mossad director David Barnea joins Ondas, bringing decades of national security leadership and advanced technology experience to support the company's global expansion. Okay, so knee-jerk reaction here on the press release. This is talking about someone that they're adding to the team, so it's likely not going to have any impact here or have any numbers about financials or anything like that. This to me seems like part of the story here. So I don't know how much this is actually going to move the stock here. Stock's about flat. Up 0.2% here. I think we also had PMI data. Yes, U.S. global manufacturing PMI for July, 53.9 versus a 53.8 estimate. The market actually just hit highs here on the SPY.
KUST, this one's been having a good morning so far. It's one of those movers that we've taken a look at before that has a very low float. So it's looking. I don't think the volume's that particularly great. It's a little bit lower than what we've seen in past days, but it's getting some attention. So something to keep an eye on here if the volume continues to expand.
SPY trying to march higher here. I actually did get a buy signal and actually just got a sell signal there at the highs there on the 0 DTE. No trade for me, no trade for the bot on that. But the SPY pushing higher here. Interesting.
Man, this is a tough. So I was talking to you over the weekend about the fires in Spokane, Washington, and
Yeah.
I was looking at some names that could potentially be affected, and man, it is not a good day to be a utility company out there and have earnings the same day, because AVA, which is a Vista Corporation, that's the utility company out there that provides electricity. They're down today. Now, I don't think that this is caused by utility poles or something starting the fire. My understanding is that there's still an ongoing investigation, but they're looking at it potentially being arson or an accident through a campfire that was being used. So I don't have all the details on that, but being that this is one of the businesses in the area that's going to be affected, I think that that's one of the reasons why you're seeing it down, in addition to the earnings.
Okay, so this is not necessarily something that we can buy for a bounce back, or like we did with EIX, right? Remember the EIX trade?
Yeah, EIX was a whole different story.
Right, so this is something completely different. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Other businesses that are in that area that have manufacturing or supply chains, you got Honeywell, you got Caterpillar. There's a Frito-Lay Pepsi warehouse that's more eastern. There's an aluminum company. I don't remember the name. There's a number of business out there that deal with healthcare and pharmaceuticals and aerospace and defense.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I remember, I didn't actually see a whole lot about that on X, about some of the fires and how out of control. I feel like with the Palisades stuff, that was immediate. So yeah. I don't know if that's just a bad read by me or whatever.
It's just one of those. So I've been in a couple of wildfires personally. Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm any kind of expert, but when you see certain things start to happen, you're just like, okay, this is going to get much worse. And when I started texting you about this, and I said this could be the next Pacific Palisades, it's because there are certain things that already happened that was making it so that that could have end up being the case, and it's starting to look like that might be. So it's very, very unfortunate. I hope
no kidding,
we can get some help out there to those people. But lots of structures burnt down, and once it crossed the Spokane River, that was basically the turning point where things were going to really accelerate out of control. And the high winds and dry conditions are almost always a sign that it's about to get worse.
And a recipe for disaster, frankly. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we'll hope that doesn't get any better here. Real quick, the bot took 2 more trades here. It did take some Amazon here on a cloud long, and it also took Dell here. That Dell trade is already popping. Looking pretty good here so far this morning. Barb, you had mentioned that Reddit is going up. Reddit, this got smoked after its earnings, maybe coming back here. 150 would be the next spot that I would look at here for Reddit. We also took a look at some of the software stocks earlier. That is, strength has continued. Microsoft at the highs, looks like we might recapture 500 here. And then now, this is another one that we were looking at earlier. This also near the highs, possible 120 recapture.
I like Reddit lower, but I think we could see somewhere between 155 and 160 be the upside resistance. Because it does look like it's trying to come back up from that huge drop it had last month. So I would kind of peg maybe some areas to sell at up in the mid to 150s as high as like the low 160s. I think that's kind of your range of where you're going to start to run into some resistance.
Okay. All right, good stuff there with Reddit. 13, is there anything else you want to take a look at? I'd actually love to just step away for a sec.
Well, we can. I see that some people are mentioning some quantum names. I don't. Yeah,
IONQ was one that got mentioned there. I actually had a story. I don't know if you saw this. 13. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna said a major part of their business line might be quantum computing in 2028. Mm-hmm. So that call that you made initially about this being sooner, now we're starting to see CEOs say the same thing that you said earlier.
It's going to be here much sooner than we think, folks. And there's a whole timeline of other stuff that's coming up that could happen, but I don't want to get into that speculative territory yet. I started texting you some of that stuff, and you're telling me that maybe go touch some grass. So I don't even want to get there yet.
Okay, well, there will be time for that.
Yeah.
Did you want to take a look at Ionic here? I'm going to step away. I'll be right back.
Let's look at Ionic. All right. So let's see here what we got with this one. I'm sorry, I'm on weekly at the moment. All right. So we kind of been pulling our way out of oversold territory. That's where we've been in, basically on the back half of July. We're starting to recapture some levels. This is the news and with IBM notwithstanding, but just looking at a chart here, we are recapturing the 500 and the 20-day SMAs today. We're above both of those right now. So looking like if we close multiple times above this, we could continue with this upside. This has been trading inside of a channel for me, a bit of a parallel channel. So we're coming up to mid channel where I would expect some resistance, and that's going to be, in the low 40s. So I think I would expect some resistance there as well as we try to recapture some of these levels. But this looks like it is turning around. We do have earnings in a couple of days, August 5th after the close. So hopefully we'll get some good news there, but also be cautious about, stocks rallying into earnings. That's something we also got to keep in mind to watch for. We don't necessarily want to see big moves into earnings. They usually get sold off once you get that print. So, earnings in 2 days. That's right. And I'm sure Janis Joplin was CIA agent, maybe. I don't know.
Let me tell you, that woman could wail, though. All jokes aside about her being the CIA, that woman could wail. We lost a great artist way too soon there, Janis. All right. Sorry, 13, for stepping on your toe here. Came back to the market at highs. So that SPY continued to trade higher, 753 now. We'll keep watching that. Tech is also at the highs. Dow is back. And then some of the other stocks that were trading down are making a comeback. How long will it last? That's the $64,000 question. Here's SpaceX. Nice little reversal there off the pre-market low. SpaceX retesting 110 to the upside. Ondas, maybe we can reclaim 8. That's higher here today. Bitcoin's higher. Velo is higher. Tesla is higher. Looking good.
Just be careful. If you have an opportunity to, pay yourself, maybe do a little bit of that. Oracle, that's being mentioned here, this still trading above the 20-day SMA, but I think we are coming up to some resistance around 145. That's kind of where we were, 145 to 150. That's kind of where we were running into resistance on the way down when we lost some of these support levels. Tried to come back up. One day in particular, July 9th, tried to recapture some of those levels. Very next day, we were getting sent much lower. So I think that resistance area around 145 to 150, we should be mindful of. Tough area to get through.
Hey, oh my goodness. Dell, the body McBot face, absolutely getting it done this morning. Look at the Dell buy. Bought Dell, entered here, 394.82. So we are 4 points higher here on Dell already. Let's go. And then you guys are mentioning STKH. That was one of the movers from last week, right, 13?
I believe so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here we go, making a move here today. Yeah, Zach, this was interesting too. I almost can't. I'm trying not to talk about it because I feel like I'm going to end up being the biggest jinx to me and everyone else that's a holder here. IDAI, actually one of the guys on Happy Hour that's really connected to this, said that he's actually expecting some good things here pretty soon. IDAI, my IDAI position for the first time in, I think, a year's time has gone green, folks. I am green on this swing that has been terrible. Now I'm looking for more. There was a lot of pain to hold this BS. So I actually want to make something off of this, but we are looking okay here. IDAI, please don't chase this name. There's been so much heartbreak in this name. Don't chase it. Wait for it to be down. If we pop here, we shall see on that. Zach, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so I don't know how much more a stakeholder is going to provide, but pretty low float. And if you like the 3D printed meat stocks, this one's for you. I'm pretty sure this is the one that does that 3D printing, different, a sustainable alternative to industrialized meat and seafood production. So there you go. 3D printed meat.
Can I pass on this?
I have all finished talking about it, so you go ahead.
Jeez. Yeah, and you guys are talking about IDA. I still in it with you. Felicia says, woohoo, it's been a long wait. Look, sometimes the good things take a long time. That's just how it is. Dell continuing to, dude, I am on something here.
And you know, sometimes when you have to hold something for a while, you end up getting long-term gains. So there's a little benefit there. It's taxed lower.
It's what?
Taxed lower.
Oh yeah, the long-term gains. Sorry, I'm amazed. Here. I'll actually just show you here real quick. I did start to increase a little bit. And you guys have been interested in this. There's the Dell close book gains booked. We're 3-0 on the bot. Okay, nice. Here. Let me try and get this out. I want to show you guys where I'm at. Keep in mind, folks. Right now we are still only on paper money. Here's a look at what my bot is doing. This is a real-time dashboard that is updating. So we're currently up $970. Again, all paper. We'll see how this changes here. It has 2 active trades right now. It looks like it's in an MFT cloud for Amazon that it's green on, and it looks like it's in a cloud curl trade on now that it's slightly lower on. We'll see how this shakes out here, but so far, so good. Up about $1,100 on the testing here today. I will say that the testing recently has gone amazing. I am considering moving to live trading here very, very, very soon. And I will keep you guys posted on this. But this is what I'm looking at here. So far, we're cooking. We're cooking. Body McBotface. It's getting rolling here. I'm going to keep rolling with that. The name of it's actually Nightfall Edge, but I'm going to keep rolling with Body McBotface because of the chat.
Nice. Ezra trying to push back up over VWAP, still getting rejected so far. Not enough buyers, it looks like, to get back above that trend line, the $4 area, and the VWAP, which are all in the same area. Hydrofarm is halted. EDBL is trading beneath the 200 EMA. I'm going to go back to STKH since that I don't know why I'm even looking at this thing. Wow, it's halted to the upside still. And just unhalted.
I'm sorry, which one I was answering?
STKH. This one's just unhalted.
Mistake. The 3. Yep.
And it's it just went right down to VWAP, turned around, and now it's pushing higher. So shake out and go. And it's probably hitting 4 and maybe coming back in. We'll see what happens.
Zach says, Ryan, test the bot for at least a few months under various conditions before going real money. Zach, that is an ideal plan, and you are not wrong. In fact, you are exactly right. I'm going to be brutally honest with you right now. I don't know that I'm going to have the patience to do that. To be quite honest with you, I work at this every single day. I deploy a new version almost every single day. It has the proof of concept is here. I am tired of talking about paper money and paper fills. I want this thing to be live, so I am going to be fighting myself on that. I'm going to be fighting myself on that. But it's been 2 weeks so far. Well, like I said, I'm going to be fighting myself on that. Christoph, you agree. Duty says, what if your bot gets hacked by one of 16 AIs fleeing from ChatGPT? I've thought about that, toyed with that a little bit. I'm going to try and train my Optimus robot to preemptively fight off hacks. That's how I'm going to go with that. You like that? Also, one more thing here, as far as the bot and security, it runs locally on my machine. This is not available on the internet, so I'm not going to do that until I absolutely have to, if I even have to, for security purposes. It'll just be a local running engine, if you will. Oh, and by the way, don't think that it's infallible. Don't think that it's infallible. Here's a look. We just checked it. It was over $1,000. Nope. It buys things that are down too. In fact, both of these recent trades are actually down a little bit here. We'll see how it shakes out. But yep, don't think it's all just roses here. It isn't. it isn't. Okay. STKH continuing to trade to the highs. Did we have an area that this thing needed to work its way through? Let me see.
I would just say look at the price action from last week.
Yep.
Specifically Thursday morning. That's kind of the price action we've had recently. That's what we're working with right now. It looks to me like 445, 450. That's the the area that's been seeing the most resistance, up from here from this current level. So I think that's where, and then we just almost hit that too. We've got as high as 430. So let's see what we get out of this this push right here. There's 440. Let's see if we get 445, 450, and then come back in. So there's 449.
Amazing call. Wow. I like how 13 shows up, says, I have no idea what's going on, and then gives you amazing calls live out here. 13, you're doing just fine.
I mean, it's okay. So here, now we got this pull. So it was a little bit higher at 472, but it's not done. I don't know. It's got to go back underneath VWAP before I'd be, like, oh yeah, this thing's starting to really come in now. But yeah, I mean, that's just what I would look at is all the price action from Thursday morning.
And this basically went right to the top end of the resistance area there from that area and stopped. Now we'll see if it gets rolling here again, but so far so good. BE. Someone was asking about BE earlier. Who's trading BE here today? After that recent move higher that we had. This looks like basically did break the low of that, but it recaptured it pretty quickly. I actually think you might run into some resistance here, 217 on ticker BE.
Batteries are and maybe even what this company does is more fuel cells. I think we're going to continue to see a lot more of this roll out. I think we're going to continue to see solar continue to roll out more. I mean, out here in Texas, we are just deploying green energy like nobody's business, more than California.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And we've got that mega factory that Tesla's opening up that's near me in Brookshire. That goes online later this year. It's going to be making mega packs and mega blocks, which are huge battery systems for to stabilize grid, the electrical grid. And we're continuing to build more power plants and bring more back online and build more data centers. So there's going to be a massive amount of electrification that's going to continue to happen, and batteries are pretty central to that.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. I'm seeing a whole bunch of NVIDIA call sweeps here. NVIDIA ripping to the highs here. Wow. I guess I didn't look at NVIDIA here this morning. This actually looks like a nice reclaim of 200 and a push higher here. Excuse me. Yeah, I was going to say, I actually think that we're coming up on I do think 205 might be a key level here for NVIDIA. It's only $1 away. After that, I'm looking at maybe 215. Remember, NVIDIA reports its earnings at the end of this month. Let me grab that date for you. Confirmed for August 26th. That's going to be 3 weeks from this Wednesday on NVIDIA earnings. Seeing a lot of call buying on NVIDIA here this morning.
Retro, there's some resistance that this stock is moving up into right now, SoFi. We did recapture a trend line, which is great, but we were coming up to the 20, 50 day SMAs. We have the 500 above that. If this, I think it's going to be a bit of a tough area in this upper end of the $17 handle. About, I guess I would say maybe somewhere around 17.25 as high as 18. So middle to higher end. If we can get past 18, it might trade better, but it's coming up to a whole bunch of support levels previous support levels that are now resistance.
At 13, this $18 level that you just gave off the daily chart, this looks absolutely like a resistance area. This looks like the top end of a range where it's kind of gone back and forth to. I would say 18 is absolutely key here.
Okay. I also have a trend line that's right up against too. If you want to draw it yourself, you just got to start with the low from May 19th and draw it through the low of June 11th and just keep it going. You can see that it provided support multiple times before we lost that level, and then it became resistance, and we've already had it act as resistance wants.
Aha. So here it is. Here it is. Great stuff there on the trend line. Indeed, I connected both of those points, and indeed, we are banging into that resistance area here today.
Yeah. So if we can't clear this, then it's probably back down to somewhere underneath the 16 handle, maybe 16 even, but certainly back underneath 17 if we can't clear this. Yeah, SpaceX tomorrow. That's going to be one of the big ones. Hood dropped under 90. I haven't looked at Hood this morning. How's that doing? Still looking like it's trying to turn around here. We had a really nice Friday candle. I'd kind of look at that as a bit of a reversal candle. It's neutral, but they can be either continuations or reversals. So with the price action we're getting here today, if this holds up, then it's looking like this could end up just being a post-trade reversal candle. And if we do continue to trade up, I'd say 95 is your next major resistance area.
Okay. Good stuff there on Hood. I actually haven't looked at Hood recently either. I know this is another popular one. This actually might be gearing up for a move higher here.
Well, I guess that mention of being the top area for a stakeholder was pretty close. I was looking at 450, 475 was the high that we got, but we started selling big time right after that. Losing VWAP, coming back in. Looks like we're approaching some support. It might be closer to $3 even, but I don't know if this is going to go right back to where it started or find support there, but that's the next support level that I see.
And real quick, folks, just another quick bot update here. This is why the entire group was telling me to test a little bit more. So you see here, first of all, we backed off some of the eye-popping numbers that we had earlier. That's fine. If we scroll down here, you'll notice that the only open trade that we have is a cloud curl here on Amazon. Here's the problem. This is why you have to test. Here are the 4 closed trades here today. You can see we started off 3-0, but I actually had to manually flatten this trade here on now because it actually went through the stop. So the stop wasn't honored. So again, this is going to be something. This is why we test. I am going to have the tool figure out exactly why it didn't sell out at that. And by the way, it looks like it took another trade here, took an NBIS on an MTF cloud trade here. Both of those trades are in the green. So we're still cooking here with the bot. Keep testing. Y'all guys were right. Okay, real quick. I'm bright. There's no reason to yell. We'd be happy to take a look at CRISPR. No reason to yell. CRSP is the ticker. Let's take a look at it.
50 is a tough spot. That looks like the big resistance level we got to clear, and if it's the big resistance level that I see right here across multiple time frames, the daily, the weekly, the monthly. $50 is I think the big line in the sand. But if we can start trading over it, then this likely has some more upside. But I think that's where I would go with this right now. $50 is the big resistance level right now.
And 13, looking at the daily chart, I've put my cursor at about 50. You can see that this is actually previous resistance and then immediately, previous support and then immediately previous resistance. You can also see that this area here, we actually danced around this for what? We've been dancing around this entire area since November. So I completely agree with you here. I think this 50 is going to be key, and I would put 60 as the next area higher.
It looks like there's resistance every $2. Like every $2 is a former support and resistance level. So it may be a matter of every $2, there's going to be some sellers, and then buyers start to step in after it pulls back a bit. That's the way I would kind of look at it. It's every $2. There's a clear area of support and resistance. But to the point about 50, that's where you have the 500-day SMA. That's right where you have the 20-month SMA. I mean, the $50 I think is the big resistance area for CRSP.
Okay. Yeah. Really good stuff there. There you go on CRSP. Really quickly, just going to answer a couple more questions here. Joe says, Ryan, you had programmed a market stop. So each trade, just like I tell you folks, when you guys take trades as a human being, each trade has a plan. So when it takes a new trade, it's got a target that it's trying to get to, and it has a stop that it's going to stop out at. The concern here is that this is actually the second time that I've had a calculated stop not fire a trade. This is what we're going to have to debug here today. And this is why paper trading is so important. Duty says, let it debug itself. Indeed, it is that I'm going to use the AI to help debug it without a doubt. Try to ask the bot to reevaluate its performance. I do that every day. This is why you also, if you're going to go down this route, you must also keep a ledger. The bot has to be able to go through all of the closed transactions and try and figure out what it can do better. That is a nightly activity, Duty. Quick check-in on the market. It is looking good. S&P still holding near highs here, 754. Remember, we talked about 755 and change being a key upside level there. Looks like we've kind of run into that. We'll see if we have the strength to get through it. Velo through 11. Ondas up towards 8, 784. SpaceX at day highs. Even Apple turned around a little bit. So we're getting some strength here in the market today.
We're being asked if we could look at Micron and SMDK,
Sure.
memory names, and they're still in a downtrend. They have been trying to recover. Friday that we hit the highs from that we had some highs we hadn't seen in since earlier in the week, but I think it looks like this is in a downtrend. You're still getting suppressed by the 20-day SMA. It's the last two visits we've been up to that moving average. It's been a rejection site. So I think that for now, it still looks like this could still maybe go lower. I'm not really interested in this as of yet. I think this really does have to come in some more. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot more downside left. And levels that I would think that this comes down to get some support looks to me like 700. Kind of sticks out, and as does 650. But again, I'm not looking at these as areas where I'm buying. I'm just looking at areas of brief support where you could see a bounce. When this thing actually starts breaking the downtrend, I think I'll be more interested. But it's still in a downtrend right now.
And to your point, that 650 actually looks like it's going to be a little bit stickier. Now, let me ask you the hard question, 13. What constitutes breaking a downtrend? If I were to very simply draw this trend line from the highs through here, is this enough for us?
Yep. That's what I would be watching for.
Okay,
if we can get over that, start trading above it, and recapture those SMAs at the same time, I think that's going to give us an indication that this is starting to turn around. And we'll have to also see what other conditions are at play, because we could see it come up to 1,000 and then go back down and back test that trend line again. But I'm not, I'm just going to be looking at that as a means of, the trend is, the downtrend is over. We're starting to see reversal, and then we're going to look at some other boxes that also have to be checked. But I would certainly be interested in a snap of this trend line here, but we can get to that later when it happens.
Okay.
Lion and use it by now.
Yeah.
Well, depends on your time horizon.
Lion says, stuff your TA. This is a buy right now.
Okay. I mean, he's probably right. It could be just that we're getting we've seen the lows or all the downside here, but I still don't think that. I think it's just a little bit more of an exercise in discipline to just wait for that confirmation that we're actually coming back up. I want to see this trading on the other side of the 20-day SMA at least. That's because that's been the rejection site since we lost it. So
yeah, no, really good stuff there. A couple more questions here. Shady Worley, Ryan, is the bot published somewhere or is it private? It is private. It is still under development. I'm just sharing my journey with you because to me this feels like the journey for the Holy Grail. Joe saying, Ryan, I was asking if your stop order was a market stop or a limit of some sort. If the market stop, then clearly there was some miscommunication with the bot and the broker. I believe it is a limit order for the stop price, but nonetheless, it danced around that price. It looks like it's done giving me actually, it looks like it's already put some fixes together. Okay, so I'll have a post-mortem when I have some more time here on that.
100% line. I think that a lot of those chip companies that are emerging in China need a while to catch up. I think that they, the supply chains may not be so much an issue, but yields and in their chip manufacturing, I think that's going to be the big thing we need to look at because they don't have great yields right now. And that means how many chips you can get out of a silicon die or silicon wafer.
Yep. Ryan, did you build that bot from scratch? Yes, I did. AMD should put a great earnings. Okay, AMD. So, Lion, thank you. AMD, this is one of the big reports for this week. And you know what? I've done so much today. I forgot to give you guys the earnings chart. Lion, thank you for the reminder. Is this for this week? It is. Here are your earnings for this week. Now, AMD is going to report tomorrow after the market closes. That's going to be one of our bigger reports. Looks like we also have Gilead that day as well. And then the big day here, it looks like Wednesday again, right? We've got eBay. We've got Eli Lilly in the morning. We've got CDW there. So tons and tons of earnings reports here. And we'll be breaking down these with Anne-Marie throughout the course of this week as well. 13, did you have a favorite earnings this week or not? I can't remember if we've talked about this. So I'm kind of just asking you out of the blue there.
Well, I am in AMD, so I certainly would like to see what they've got to say, and I think that they will, have a good earnings report. I'm very interested to see what SpaceX has to say.
Me too,
because I think that's going to kind of determine what the market may do next. There's a lot of we have the share unlocks happening during that time. And then we, also have a future share dilution event with the acquisition of Anysphere. I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting things being said in SpaceX's earnings report and conference call that I'm, interested to see. But that's the one I'm looking forward to the most, because I think when it comes to how far can this whole theme with chips and space and everything go, I think SpaceX is pretty central to all that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay, good stuff there. Real quick, let's just take a look around at some of the other options on holdings here. This actually has a pretty good looking formation intraday here. Donkey Kong, DraftKings, these still cannot get out of their own way. Even with Burry helping it, they can't. NVIDIA, which we've talked about quite a bit here, seeing more call sweeps here. NVIDIA still near the high.
I was asked by Alan Lively, with the new 5 million market cap rule, is it possible that folks are pulling out of trading those stocks and going more mainstream? Just a thought. So there's a lot of different things happening with that. And I think it's one of the reasons why you're getting a lot of attention paid to small caps, because there are going to be some people that are going to look to avoid those. There's also going to be some that are looking to trade these because they could get acquired. They may do some, financial management or some capital raising to where it brings their FVLS up to, over 5 million. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of tradable events happening here, but I don't think that you're just going to see people completely avoid those. I think, if anything, they're going to pay more attention to them. It's just going to be, a matter of finding the good ones versus finding the real junk ones that look like they have no chance. Those would probably be avoided, but maybe also volatile to trading, especially if they have low floats and high short interest. So it's. I don't think it's going to be anything that it's going to be completely avoided. I think it's going to have a lot of attention on it, but for very, very different reasons.
Okay. Good stuff there. SPY is trying to rally. It's trying to go higher here. 754.54 is your high spot, or is your high of the day. By the way, the bot did stop on Amazon, so it took another loss there, but it is crushing on MBIS. We are actually almost at the target. MBIS target 208.89. Stock is currently at 206. Good stuff there, 13. And I know, we have talked about your schedule changing here. I know that you joined a little bit late here. Excellent stuff from you again. It doesn't matter what time you show up here. The effort is always A+. The information is always A+. So we thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's always fun to come on here and talk stocks with everybody.
Indeed.
And Barb Electric is asking if anyone else is looking at GNRC, Generac. So one of the things that I think why we're seeing downside and all with this one, because I did like this one. This one had a really nice rally, but at the same time, we all are experiencing the El Nino super cycle for our weather system, in the United States here, and that's going to mean that the Northwest, here we go, Northwest is going to see a lot drier conditions and warmer conditions. So one of the reasons why you're seeing a lot of these fires in the Northwest, and in the Southeast, down, where I am at near the Gulf, we're going to see a lot cooler conditions and a lot wetter conditions. And what that means is we're going to have more floods, but fewer hurricanes. And this, to me, is the hurricane play. So if we're going to see fewer hurricanes, which we have seen almost none so far this year, I think that's one of the big reasons why you're getting this decline. Is there's just no disasters, no disasters really happening here. So, but it is finding some support underneath the 200-day SMA. It looks like it is getting or trying to turn around here after being really oversold. So it's certainly something that we should be keeping an eye on here. But we'll have to look at this a little bit later, because I'd want to spend more time looking at this for a trade, because it is a good idea, especially with how oversold it was. But I think that's one of the big reasons why you saw this decline. And I need to go back and look at their earnings as well. But they may have forecast that because of El Nino, there's going to be much fewer hurricanes that would prompt a price rally.
Barb says, I'm partial to Generac. I install their whole house backups all the time out here in Myrtle Beach. My buddy has one. He swears by it. 13, you have one, right?
I've got one.
Yeah, you guys, the product itself, from what I understand, is phenomenal. The people that have it absolutely love it.
Jay, that's probably maybe also the case now, but I still think that we're seeing the downside because of the lack of hurricanes. Maybe the whole pushback on data centers is another reason why it could be going down. I'm not saying that the data centers aren't a major factor in this, but I think that because of where all the business would normally come from, and the seasonality of GNRC is very closely tied to hurricane season, that I look at this as a hurricane play. But I don't think we should be looking at it as not a data center play. It absolutely is.
Yeah. I think data centers are really kind of taken over there, so that makes a lot of sense. Ondas, straight up, we did recapture 8. And Zach, I saw that you mentioned earlier we have earnings coming up here on that. Let's actually grab the exact date for that here. Earnings 10 days, Thursday, August 13th, before the market opens. That should be good on Ondas. Straight up here, folks.
Pip, we did talk about SoFi earlier. If you want to back the video up a bit, but I think we were looking at the $17 as high as 18, like something about 17.25 to 18 as being a tough resistance area. You might have to go back a little bit in this stream to see exactly what we were talking about, but we're entering a bit of a resistance area here with a lot of moving averages and trend lines. So that's what we had discussed earlier.
TGTX, this also reported earnings here today, folks. This is down 9%. Boy, this stock was in a 50 handle. I remember we were trading this in the high teens. NBIS, which the bot is on and has hooked a winner. NBIS, by the way, the bot's target for taking gains on this is 208.89. NBIS, though, this has made a nice move out of the gate here. Let's see what else I have. Let's see. I also programmed some key levels automatically. Let me see if I have any of those here. NBIS, yes. So the long trigger here was 182 to 200. The target is 229.45, and the pattern is invalidated if the price prints 167.
Jay, they didn't go down on earnings. If you look at where their earnings are, they just had them on July 29th, and like I said, I haven't looked at them yet. But this decline had already started on July 1st, and I think one of the big reasons that we saw this decline at all, and it continued. I'm looking back at the news now, was probably because you had some insider selling. I think that's why you got this downward move here. Since earnings, July 29th, it looks like it's been on trying to put in the bottom and cover. It popped on earnings and then sold off, but we still held the 180. Looks like 188 area. But this decline wasn't from their earnings. I think this is more likely from the insider selling.
Real quick, you folks that are in Myrtle Beach, you let me know what you think the best golf courses are out there. I've played Tidewater, which I actually absolutely loved, Caledonia, World Links Golf Tour, but I'm curious to get your opinions there on that. Okay, NBIS continuing to scream higher here. That is awesome. 13. We've only got 2 minutes left here. I'll tell you what, today flew by.
Yeah.
Like flew by. And by the way, I know it's only day one of the new schedule here, so it might be too early for you to tell, but is this a reasonable expectation going forward, or are we still playing that by ear?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The time that you joined, I was not clear. That's my fault.
I look. It's probably going to be the entirety of the month that's going to take me to actually nail down when I'm going to be consistently able to come on here. But I'll try to get on. If there's no chance of me coming on here, I'll let you know ahead of time.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And folks, we're going to do what we talk about with trades here. We're going to be as patient as possible and wait for our guy to 13 to take care of all of his issues here. Okay, MBIS continue to scream higher. Go. We just need to get to 208.89. We just need to get to 208.89. This is going to be an absolute monster of a trade if this fills there. Come on. This is also something that I want to be able to walk away because I don't want to cheerlead my bot every single day. That'd be something else there. We are so close to the target.
13 issues. Yeah. Choice of words there, man.
And it actually stopped out on Microsoft there. Oh man, this is so awesome. So awesome. All right, and NBIS flattened there for a gain of 989. We are cooking 57% win rate. We are absolutely cooking today. No active trades for the bot at this time. I will keep you posted if that changes, but this is a good day of test data, folks. Okay. Shoot, 13. We're out of time. Any closing words for the group here today?
Hey, nice to see you again. I'll be back.
That was, short and sweet. That's my man, 13. 13, great job today. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you on happy hour, okay?
All right, sounds good. Bye, everybody.
All right, that is 13, folks. A big day, big week. We opened it up strong. Great day here today. Have a great rest of your Monday. We're going to be back at this again tomorrow. And folks, with 13 going to be out a little bit, I got another surprise. I'm going to try and recruit Anne Marie to help us break down charts as we lead into the open so that you folks are as prepared as possible. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll catch you tomorrow. Take care.